Hey guys. This is what if Naruto went back in time with Gaara and Shikamaru and was merciless. 32-year-old Uzumaki Naruto is a very different person from when he was 12. Death has made his life different. What will he do when he gets thrown back into the past with two of his last friends? Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Hey guys. This is what if Naruto went back in time Gaara and Shikamaru and was merciless. 32-year-old Uzumaki Naruto is a very different person from when he was 12. Death has made his life different. What will he do when he gets thrown back into the past with two of his last friends? Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 1. Evening in Konoha. The people were doing their last business before going home to their families, and in the Hokage Tower did their Hokage, Sarutobi Konohamaru, watch them. He sighed slightly, turned away from the window and shifted his attention to the man sitting on the other side of his desk. Life is wonderful. The man snorted and looked at the younger one. Life is nothing, he replied, his voice deep. Konohamaru shook his head from the sentimental feelings and took up the cup sitting on the desk. How's Shikamaru? The Rokudame finally asked. As fine as you can be in his situation, the man replied. Talk to him yourself? I would if I could, but he isn't talking to anyone in this village but you, Naruto Nizan. Uzumaki Naruto shrugged gracefully and picked up the cup he had, filled with sake as opposite of Konohamaru's tea. The energetic blonde everyone had come to know was long gone at the age of 32. In fact, that person had perished when Naruto was 15 years old. The reason for that was the brutal death of Jiraiya that Naruto had witnessed. Now the blonde was a hardened shinobi with little respect for his enemies' lives. His bright blue eyes had faded into a frosty blue. They were cold most of the time, but Konohamaru knew there was warmth left in them. Naruto's now long blonde hair was put up in a ponytail and ended somewhere around his waist. His choice of clothing was something that stood out amongst shinobis, a complete white set. The trench coat had wide arms and ended around his ankles, a fishnet shirt, white tight pants and knee-high, white combat boots with steel at the bottom. The only clothing that was not white beside the fishnet shirt was his elbow-long black gloves, mostly hidden by the arms of the coat. What had stood out the most at Naruto before was his birthmarks, but they had faded with time, leaving smooth skin behind. As a child he had been tan, but now his skin had taken a ghostly pale color due to many missions and travels had been made by night over the years, and his eyes sometimes appeared as shining orbs in the darkness because of that. Shining orbs in the face of a corpse. Maybe not the most flattering comment, but at least it scared his enemies shitless. Instead of kunais and other weapons, Naruto wore 10 scrolls around his waist, all carefully prepared by himself. Naruto Nizan, Naruto looked up from his cup and into Konohamaru's eyes. How did it feel when Jiraiya-sama died? The younger man asked. As it felt for you when Sandaime-sama died. Respect for his elders may have been slow, but better late than never. I hardly remember that, Konohamaru said quietly. It's been so many years. Why are you getting all sentimental for? Naruto said. I don't have all day. Are you leaving again? I'm free to travel wherever I want to. I know that, the younger male said. It's just you've been gone for over a year, and you don't even want to stay overnight. Naruto looked at him and said, It's not your fault if that's what you think. He took a sip of his cup. Then whose fault is it? Konohamaru asked. Just the village in general, the blonde said with a shrug. Too many bad memories. Too many deaths, the Hokage added. That too, Naruto agreed with a small tilt of his head and then drained the sake. The Hokage knew his friend was leaving. When will you be back? Konohamaru asked. I don't know, Naruto replied as he rose up. Say hello to everyone from me. Why don't you say hello yourself for once? Konohamaru asked. You haven't seen anyone except Shikamaru and me in almost 6 years. I don't want to see them. Whatever is left of them. At least say hi to Shikamaru yourself this time, the Rokudame pleaded. Knowing that someone still cares will keep him from doing something stupid. If it makes you feel better, fine, the blonde said. I'll go and play some shugi with him. Konohamaru rose up and walked up to the man. For a long time the brunette had admired this man. First it was a childish one, then it turned into real, almost hero worship. He saw his idol grow up to be one of the best, only to say no when he had the chance to become Hokage. He was fine with being nothing, but Tsunade had not allowed that. With the nickname of one of the second-generation Sanins, and the forced-on title of Kage, Naruto had been free to leave whenever he wanted. And he had left for years. By the time he came back for the first time, Konohamaru was about to be named Hokage in front of the whole village, one of the youngest Kages to be a leader over a village. When he had looked down at what was now his people, he had spotted a familiar blonde-headed man. Naruto had looked up at him, and smiled for real. That was the last real smile Konohamaru had seen Naruto make in front of him, and that was 10 years ago. Gaara Shikamaru was a lost cause according to most people. Having witnessed his best friend Choiji's brutal murder had made the famous Jounin shut down completely. He had resigned and locked himself up in his house, sitting in front of his shugi board most of the time. Everyone felt sorry for him, not that he himself cared what they thought. At the moment, he was doing what he almost always did when suddenly a white blur came and settled itself across the board. Naruto leaned his chin into his palm and said, "What are you doing inside on such a nice evening?" "Naruto," Shikamaru said, slightly surprised. He had not expected the man, as Naruto tended to show up at random times. Mostly those random years was once or twice a year. "One and only," the blonde replied and looked at him. His blue eyes were glittering. "Come on, let's go star watching." "No. No one will see us, and I have the feeling Gaara will join us." Shikamaru looked at him and said, "Why do you care? Why are you still asking that?" Naruto huffed. "If you continue with that, I will start hitting you at some point." Shikamaru's lips twitched into a small smile, and he rose up. The blonde followed and continued, "Want anything with you?" "No, I'm good," the brunette said. The shadows twisted around Shikamaru's feet as he walked. Gaara swept a piece of hair away from his eyes and continued to watch Konoha. The sun had gone down, giving way to darkness and bright stars. "Did you wait long?" A small smile crept up on his face as he heard his friend's voice. He turned around and shook his head. Naruto nodded and said, "Brought Shikamaru with me." The brunette raised a hand as a greeting and Gaara nodded to him. "How did you know I was here?" the redhead asked. "I saw with my inner eye," the blonde said and sat down, face straight. The redhead raised an eyebrow at him. "Kidding, felt your chakra." "Thought so," Gaara muttered. Shikamaru followed after Naruto, sitting down as well, and the three men were quiet as they watched the sky or the village. "Do you sometimes wish everything was different?" Gaara suddenly asked. "Every day," Shikamaru said. "Every second," Naruto continued. "Many people died. How many didn't have to?" "Kankuro," Gaara whispered. "I still miss him, even if he's been dead for 19 years. "Choji," Shikamaru said, his eyes clouded. "Asuma, hell, I even miss that pervert to teacher Kakashi." "Old good Kakashi," Naruto said. "I miss Iruka too. The academy teacher from hell. Man, even Tsunade was scared shitless when he was pissed off," the brunette said with a chuckle. "He even made me shake in fear once he got started," Naruto said and smiled. Nowadays he only smiled in Gaara's and Shikamaru's presence. "I don't doubt if he comes here right this very instant, he would have me shaking as a leaf within minutes." Gaara laughed softly at that. "What would you give for a second chance?" he asked the blonde man. "I dunno," Naruto said. "My life wouldn't do, then I can't do anything, but I could sacrifice this." "This?" Shikamaru asked. "My reputation I gained from the war, from the training with Tsunade," Naruto said. "The connections I have, my boring lifestyle. I could give everything in my life up," Gaara said. "What matters that I've been a Kage when those I love and want to protect are already dead? I'm a good for nothing now," Shikamaru said. "Hell, I can't even fight without remembering all the times when my friends died. If I could just see them again, alive and well, I could fight even fucking Orochimaru or Akatsuki myself." "Looks who's having too big confidence," Gaara said, and Shikamaru chuckled. "Well, I can't help it," he said with a shrug. They sat in comfortable silence for a long time, all content to just sit and watch whatever they wanted. "What's the noise?" Naruto suddenly asked. They looked around, and suddenly a blinding light surrounded them. Naruto felt Gaara's body pressed against his own and acted on instinct. His hands shot out and grabbed both of them. Shikamaru's hands gripped his arm tightly and Gaara fisted a hand into the white trench coat. Then it was all darkness. Chapter 2. Naruto groaned and opened his eyes to a slit. He was lying on something rather cramped, and it was hard and uncomfortable, and he had a bad feeling about it all. The air was humid, he had felt that before, and he sat up, ignoring the twinge in his back. His eyes opened a bit, and looked around. They slowly widened, in shock, and he whipped around. No way. No fucking way, he was in his old apartment, and with old, he really meant old. The one he had lived in until he was 15, the one he had been forced to live in as long as he remembered. But that was not the most shocking thing. The building was not supposed to exist in his time. So, what the fuck was he doing here? Gaara moaned at the pounding of his head, wondering if he had hit it so hard it had split apart on him. He moved and bumped into a body. He opened his eyes and found Shikamaru in the same condition as himself. They sat up slowly and the redhead looked around. "Where are we?" he asked. Shikamaru looked around and blinked. Then some more, he looked around again and Gaara waited patiently for the man to speak. And speak he did. "This looks like the forest just outside of Konoha." Naruto checked the date on the calendar that was on the wall. It was the day before his test to see if he would become a genin. Okay, what the hell? What kind of trouble had he managed to land himself in? Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath and then searched for Gaara's and Shikamaru's chakra signals. Finding them outside of Konoha, his eyes opened and he walked over to the window, knowing he had to do some serious thinking later. For once, where was his younger self? Had no one felt them arrive? He did not mean to brag or anything, but 3 unfamiliar chakra signals could not just arrive without suspicion rising. But for now he just wanted to have some sense of reality, and that meant getting Shikamaru and Gaara. They would probably be as confused as him, and that was somehow comforting to know. Plus he would not be able to focus alright unless he knew they were both alright. He was under a henge was a jounin before he had even gotten fully out of the window, and jumped up at a nearby roof. He jumped down near the gate and started running. The chunins by the gate did not try to stop him, so he continued. Rushing in the woods nearby, he searched for the 2 familiar chakra signals. "Someone's coming!" Gaara hissed and stood up. Shikamaru got up as well, but the dizziness settled in for him, and he braced himself against a tree. Gaara looked around, ready for fighting, sand swirling around his feet. "Gaara? Shikamaru? Naruto?" they both asked before they recognized the blonde's chakra signal. The blonde released the henge and came to a stop next to them. Shikamaru regained his balance and stepped away from the tree. "All right, what's going on?" Gaara asked. "You won't believe me," Naruto said. "What?" they replied. "We're 20 years in the past. Why do I have to play the mother?" Shikamaru groaned. "Because I'm the kid, and can you see Gaara as a mother hen?" Naruto said. "Mommy. Call me that, and I'll strangle you, blondie," the brunette warned. "Yeah? Try it, woman. Stop fighting," the redhead growled. "We're entering the store now." They did so after one last warning growl from the father. Naruto had a henge, so he looked like a 10-year-old boy with short, brown hair and blue eyes. Gaara had a henge as well with black hair and blue eyes, while Shikamaru had a henge on him to make himself look like a woman who had long, curly brown hair and green eyes. They walked into the teenage section and let Naruto free. "What should I have?" he asked the 2. "It's your choices," the redhead replied. It was not really hard for them to decide how to proceed. They were not going to let nature or fate, or whatever, take its course and cause it all to happen. What was confusing though was Naruto was pretty sure there were 2 Shikamarus and 2 Gaaras, but not a second Naruto. He had seen the younger Shikamaru before, so there was no reason there would not be a second Gaara. One reason was Kyubi. The fox hated competition, especially from himself, and might as well have gotten rid of the second Naruto. There was nothing to worry about when it came to Shikaku though. The demon was too bloodthirsty to even care about competition, and he was not strong enough to remove a person when locked inside his vessel. And why Naruto suspected Kyubi was because the fox had been strangely silent, only giving short answers during these chaotic-like hours, just telling the man not to worry about the loss of his younger self. The man was not so sure he should just forget about his younger self. Naruto remembered himself as a loudmouth brat, but he was not an evil loudmouth brat, just slightly misbehaving. Kyubi had by then quite shortly told him to shut up, and the blonde man knew better than to argue with a grumpy demon, unless he wanted to go deaf. Kyubi had a shrill voice when he was upset, and it got quite annoying to listen to it after a while. He had decided to let the subject rest for a bit. So now Naruto walked around and picked clothing for his new wardrobe while Shikamaru and Gaara waited. Nothing too outrageous for his style. He did not want to get noticed any more than necessary. Finally he was done and Gaara took the clothes to pay them. For once in this time, Naruto did not get glares from the clerk. Instead he smiled at the boy before summing up how much it would cost. And what do you know, it did not cost nearly as much as Naruto usually had to pay. Ah, the wonders of Henge. After that they quickly moved to Naruto's apartment. They changed back and disappeared from the street before anyone came. Seated in the tiny apartment, Naruto wished he had some sake. He would not complain having a jar of Tsunade's special one. He had inherited a bit of her drinking habits as he got older. Shikamaru chewed on his nail and said, "So, what am I and Gaara gonna do? We have enough money to buy Konoha," Naruto said with a snort. "Buy a house, but be under Henge." "Do I have to be a woman?" Shikamaru whined. "How about a father with his teenage son?" Gaara asked. "Sounds good," Naruto replied. "You can be the teen, Shika." "Understood," the brunette said, saluting. Gaara rolled his eyes. "How are you going to fix everything without blowing your cover?" "I have a plan," the blonde said. "Trust me." "Yeah, I was afraid of that," Shikamaru muttered, and Naruto could not help but glare at the brunette. "Like that'll scare me." Naruto ignored the snickering brunette, as well as his desire to smack said brunette over the head, and dragged instead forth a scroll and opened it. He rolled it up until he came to a certain symbol. He unsealed it and gave a communicator to Gaara. "It will go faster to speak with each other with that in case of an emergency. You will keep that with you at all times," he said. "Try not to be apart too much." "Will I be a genin or what?" Shikamaru asked. "Do you want to be?" "I don't really know," the brunette replied. "It would be pretty troublesome going through it all again." "You can be a normal, lazy teen," Naruto said. "I can know you, so I'll visit you looking like my 12-year-old self." "So it's really no second Naruto as it is two of me and two of Shikamaru?" Gaara said. "Something like that," the blonde replied. "I don't know why, but I'm not too interested in finding out." "Neither am I," the red-headed man said. "Troublesome," Shikamaru muttered. The two Jinchurikis could not help but agree. Chapter 3. Checking himself over in the mirror, Naruto adjusted the clothing once more before making sure his henge looked alright. He had been really small at the age of 12, he realized with a sigh. Not really something he could do about it, though. The only thing he could chance was the way he had been dressing himself when he was young. Orange was a color he liked, but not a color to wear if you were a shinobi. So now he was outfitted in a white t-shirt, black baggy pants, and a dark brown hooded jacket. Not any outstanding colors and clothing that could melt into the environment if needed to. He was still a bit awkward with the pouch, and his scrolls he had sealed into another scroll, fastened near his body where he would notice the moment it was removed. Satisfied, he moved out. Naruto was one of the first people to arrive in the classroom, for a change, and he seated himself in the back where no one would bother him. When Shino entered the room, he could not help but stare at the boy. The bug user had died so young, only 15 at the time. This time, though, it would work out better. It had to be. Naruto may look cold in front of others, and uncaring, but all the deaths around him had nearly broken him down. The first time Kyubi had helped him through it, however, he was not sure he could take a second time. Irika entered the room after a number of other kids, and Naruto released a contented sigh, the first adult who accepted him for who he was. He had not seen Irika in 14 years except on the few rare pictures of the man. The Chunin spotted him and stared. Naruto mused the man must have some kind of radar when it came to the blonde. Irika always knew where Naruto was, not matter how hard the blonde had tried to hide. That was probably why they always sent out the man when Naruto had done a prank in the past. It usually took Irika between 5 to 10 minutes to find him. The teacher rose up and walked up to him. "Naruto?" "Yeah?" he replied, looking up at the brunette. "You're wearing normal clothes." Irika's face said that was the shock of the year. Naruto had the urge to grin, but kept it in. "Yeah. Did I miss something here?" the Chunin asked, moving down so he could look Naruto in the eyes. He looked worried, wondering and relieved at the same time, which only Irika could pull off. "Nope," Naruto replied. "I just stopped liking the others." Naruto, you've been dressed in them for years and yesterday you still loved them. Overnight thing, Naruto said and waved his hand. Plus a shinobi doesn't dress like an idiot, Iruka-sensei. Ah, how he had missed saying that name. Iruka looked at him oddly, but the boy just smiled a bit. Dazed, the Chunin smiled back and wondered since when the smile looked so natural on Naruto's face. Naruto came out from the room with a shiny new Hittite with him. Some of the students stared at him because they never expected the idiot, the dead last, to pass. He just ignored them and sat down next to Hinata. She blushed and stuttered out. See, congratulations, Naruto-kun. Thanks, he replied. You made it as well? I guess, she said, pushing her fingers together nervously. Her Hittite was around her neck as she did not know where else to put it. I bet your father will be really proud over you, he said, and Hinata looked at him. Naruto had always thought Hiashi was a crappy father, but learned later on he just did not know how to express his feelings. He had loved his eldest daughter deeply but had put too much pressure and acted a bit too cold to her. However, the blonde-haired man knew Hinata was strong despite being constantly pushed around by her family. Her face altered in front of him, replaced by an older one. The face smiled. Even in the midst of a battle did Hinata smile. Perhaps he will, Hinata said, breaking him out from his thoughts, and the elder Hinata's face vanished. Naruto nodded at her, and just then Iruka began to speak. The man in disguise saw Mizuki's angry face and had a good hunch that the man was going through with stealing the seal tonight, even if he had no one to trick to steal it for him. He needed to get in contact with Gaara and Shikamaru for the plan. Sarutobi, the third Hokage, sat by his desk and sighed deeply. Paperwork was long and boring, especially for a man who had no interest in doing it. He had never been interested in the paperwork, and wondered why most of his time as a Hokage was spent by a desk. Oh, right, they were not at war. When it was peace, it meant the Hokage was sitting and doing paperwork. Well, he preferred peace over war any day. But the paperwork was killing him, or at the very least threatening to drive him insane. Suddenly 3 of the windows flew open, and in came 3 blurs. Sarutobi had no time to react before 3 men stood before him. The aged man blinked owlishly at the rather strange sight. One of his hands settled on a kunai. He might be able to take out one in case of an attack. The man standing in front of his desk was dressed in purely white, a sight rarely seen when it came to shinobis. White tight pants, knee-long white combat boots, a white tight t-shirt and a white trench coat. His waist-long hair though was bright blonde, and his skin was so pale he looked a bit sick. His eyes were frosty blue, making the pupils stand out in his face. He was looking passively at the Hokage. The man to his left was all black. He had the same sort of clothes as the man in white, only his clothing was black. He had no scrolls though. Instead he had a pouch that Sarutobi could only speculate of the contents. His coal-black hair reached to his shoulders, his skin light tan and his eyes black and emotionless. But on the trench coat he had a hood unlike the man in white. The third man was dressed in red. He had loose-sitting red pants with high red combat sandals, a red tight turtleneck shirt and a looser, deeper red vest that ended around his ankles. He wore no pouches from what the Hokage could see. His red hair was short and spiky, and he had clear red eyes, though turquoise around the pupils. His skin was rather pale, and he had dark rings under the eyes, like he had not slept for a long time. Sarutobi did not know what to say at the sight of the 3 strange men. He regretted not letting his bodyguards stay in the office when the blond man reached for a scroll. But he only put the scroll into the desk and said with a deep, monotone voice, "Read it, Sarutobi-sama." Sarutobi took the scroll with hesitation and saw it was concealed with a blood seal. He looked up sharply at the blond man, but said man made no movement. The black-haired man looked bored while the red-haired stared at the aged man impatiently. The Hokage unsealed it with a quick flash of his own blood and it opened. As he read it, his eyes widened. Each word made him more astonished and confused. 15 minutes later, he finished the reading and looked thoughtfully at the 3 men. "I see," he said slowly. "It's much to take in, but shall we start with introductions?" The blond man looked at the Hokage and said, "I'm Shiroi." "I'm Kawa," the black-haired man said. "And I'm Akai," the redhead said. Sarutobi stared at them. Well, at least the names were easy to remember. "Your real names?" he finally asked. "Should not be mentioned here," Shiroi replied. "But you know now of our position and our intentions. You can only decide." He looked at the 3 of them for a long time. Then he glanced at the scroll before saying, "If this last part is true, how about I will give you your first mission?" Outside of Konoha in a clearing in the forest, Mizuki and Iruka were fighting. Blows were exchanged, and Mizuki was furious Iruka had managed to follow him and see through his plan. "Why are you doing this?" Iruka shouted. "Mizuki! Shut up! I don't need Konoha! I just need the Forbidden Scroll, nothing else!" Mizuki shouted back. "Die!" Weapon met weapon, the two fought furiously, either keen to lose. Iruka lost his own weapon at a careless moment, and Mizuki turned crazy eyes to the brunette. Iruka looked up him with wide eyes, frozen where he stood. The traitor raised a kunai, but before he could stab Iruka to death, something stopped the hand from moving. Iruka fell to the ground as the adrenaline kick vanished, staring at the man who had suddenly appeared before the two, the man that had just saved his life. Black as the night, he stood rigid, blocking Mizuki's kunai with his own. Obsidian eyes stared at the traitor long and hard, until Mizuki tried to get away. Only he could not move. Shadows clung to his legs and he began screaming. Iruka watched in fascination as the black-clothed man put away the kunai, put his hands together in a seal and said, almost lazily, "Shadow technique, Black Knight." The shadows lazily began trickle upwards, winding around the traitor. They looked like slick flames and Iruka saw them inching closer to the crazed man's neck. Mizuki's shouting was cut short as the shadows wound themselves around his neck, squeezed tightly, and the man fell down after a while, dead. The black-haired man hoisted the forbidden scroll up and turned to look at the brunette. His emotionless eyes did not change. He put a finger to his lips though and said, "Not a word about me, Iruka-san." A Konoha Hittite flashed by the man's neck. The next moment he vanished into the shadows, leaving a very confused Iruka behind. Was that a Nara or what? The next day Naruto sat with Hinata again, making the girl smile. Naruto himself was just plain bored despite that he had good company with him. He wondered, since he had changed some things already, if he would get another team. He thought it would probably not happen since he still had his bad results in the past. He had grown smarter during the years, but reading was still not a favorite thing of his, unless he could read about whatever he wanted. Then it was perfectly fine. Iruka hawked and looked around. Naruto saw no signs that the teacher had been near death just the night before and was a bit relieved about that. "Now," he said, "time for getting into teams and hearing who your teacher is. Team 1 is..." Naruto sat with his head in his hands, looking bored. Hinata hid her smile behind her hand, pretending to cough. The blonde man in disguise looked at her, a bit amused. He wondered if she had been like this in his past as well and just hid it very well, or he had been too ignorant to even notice her, poor girl, or it was thanks to his actions the day before. For some reason, he had a feeling it was the former. Maybe she was not as different as the one he knew in the future. Team 7. Iruka read up. Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto. Your teacher will be Hatake Kakashi. Sakura squealed at the aspect of being with Sasuke, said boy ignored everything else, and Naruto tilted his head. Will you be okay with them? Hinata asked him, and the man in disguise turned to look at her. I mean, Sakura can be pretty mean, and Sasuke. She seemed to know more about the three's relationship than Naruto thought, but there was something he needed to find out. Oh, he said, puzzled. She blinked, confused. He leaned closer and said in a whisper, like a big secret. You didn't stutter, Hinata-san. She blinked again, a small blush on her cheeks. I didn't? She said. Well, now you did, but not before. They were interrupted by Iruka announcing the 8th team was Hinata herself, Kiba and Shino. Their teacher would be Kurenai, just like before, Naruto mused. Also Team 10 was the same. Naruto never knew the other teams and therefore had no idea if they had changed or not. Although as they had stayed the same, he opted the others had as well. So, Iruka said, and getting up. Your teachers will come here and get you soon. Good luck. Naruto sat back and sighed. It would take Kakashi at least 2 hours before getting there. What to do during that time? Hinata turned to talk to him again, and he spent the first half hour talking to her. Then Kurenai came and Hinata bowed a little to the man in disguise before following the red-eyed woman, almost skipping in happiness. Naruto found it very amusing, and could not help but smile. It felt a bit weird to smile, having gone so long without doing so, but he knew he could get used to it. He also had a feeling he would be smiling a lot in the near future to come. Soon Team 7 was alone while waiting for their teacher. Sakura went to sit next to Sasuke and tried without success strike a conversation with him. Sasuke ignored her. But after a while and with no stupid Naruto interruptions, they both turned to look at said Naruto, who was reading a book and ignoring them both. Sakura gaped while Sasuke's eyes widened slightly. Naruto was reading a book and he was quiet? This day was far too weird to be true. When Kakashi entered the classroom, he was met by a shrilly female voice that screamed, "You're late!" He winced at the tone and looked at a pink-haired girl who had furious eyes, hands clenched at her sides and dressed in a bright red dress. All right, her dressing needed to be discussed. Such colors would scream, "I'm here, come and kill me already." A black-haired boy sat by the window, only glancing at the man before returning to stare at whatever an Uchiha stared at. The ice prince that needed some serious melting. Or get that stick out of his ass so he could be a bit more polite. So where was the third one, the container of Kyuubi? Kakashi one-eye swept over the classroom until he saw a boy sitting at the far end with a book covering his face. He saw a bit of blonde hair, skinny hands holding the book. "Meet me up at the roof," Kakashi said, pointing upwards. "In 5 minutes." Then he disappeared. He could look at them more closely as they were at the roof. Naruto looked at him for a moment and then away, like Kakashi was a disinteresting insect not worth the attention. The man's eyebrow twitched just a bit at that. Dismissing him that easily would not sit well with the brat. "So you are my new team?" he asked. "I already know your names, but how about your likes, dislikes, hobbies and dreams?" "Can't we start with you, sensei?" Sakura asked. "We don't know anything about you." "Me? Oh, okay. I'm Hatake Kakashi. Things I like and things I hate. I don't feel like telling you that. My dreams for the future, never really thought about it. As for my hobbies, I have lots of hobbies. Now Pinky, your turn." Sakura's vein ticked at the lack of information and nickname, but she started anyway. "I like learning new things, I dislike Ino Pig and Naruto no Baka, and my dream is, well, maybe I shouldn't say it in the open." By the way she was glancing at Sasuke, Kakashi knew exactly what she was going to say. "And my hobbies are learning and—" Once more she looked over at Sasuke. Kakashi sighed and turned to the boy in question. "You then?" "I don't like anything, I hate a lot, and I have a goal in my life, to kill one person." He did not say any hobbies, not like it was really necessary to say. Dear old Sasuke, still the same, Naruto thought and nearly shook his head. "Drop the goal already, brat, it's not going to do either of you any good." A heat spread from his hidden scroll, and the man in disguise discreetly placed a hand there, calming the leaking chakra with a determined shove of his own. No need to alert Kakashi. "Okay," Kakashi said. "Only Blondie left then. Like nothing, hate nothing, have no dreams, no hobbies." Naruto answered flatly, looking steadily at Kakashi. "Nothing?" Kakashi questioned. "And if I did have something I liked or disliked, why should I say it to you?" The man in disguise said, quirking an eyebrow. "It would only give you a chance to get closer to me, and maybe hurt someone I like." Kakashi wanted to chuckle. A bold mouth and a confident mind. This would be fun. "All right, we will meet tomorrow at 7 for our first training session," the man announced cheerfully, making them snap out of their stupor. "We'll be on training field 7, and after tomorrow, we will begin with missions." "What kind of training session will it be?" Sakura asked. "Just to test your abilities," Kakashi said. "Don't be late." "Same to you, sensei," Naruto said. "We finished?" "Yes," the man said. "Good," Naruto said, stepping to the edge of the roof. "Have a nice day." He jumped to the next building, and in the next moment he disappeared in a swirl of wind. The three gaped after him. Was that necessary? Naruto looked over at Gaara, who jabbed his chin towards the three on the roof. Shikamaru yawned and changed page in his book. "Yes, it was," Naruto said. "They need a shock once in a while." They were once more in their Shiroi, Kurwa and Akai guises, and on their way to the Hokage Tower. Naruto nudged Shikamaru in the side with his foot and said, "Come on, we're going." The other man got up and put away the book. In the next moment, they vanished from sight. Chapter 4. Naruto took a look around the empty training field and then plopped down on the ground. He put his chin in his hand and began to think. He, Shikamaru, and Gaara would be sent on missions that would interfere with Team 7's training or missions or their own. Therefore, he had to make a perfect copy of himself that could act like him without raising suspicions. It was not hard to make a copy, but how to make it remain for as long as he wished it, and stand against hits and the like, as being in Team 7 did not mean a dance on roses. Kage Bunshin would not last 5 minutes, Naruto knew that. His hands itched to get out his scrolls, but as the others in his team could arrive at any minute, that would be rather stupid. Instead, he closed his eyes and started going through techniques he knew, already looking forward for some time alone so he could get his technique scroll out and check through. He heard something rustling, someone landing in a tree further away, then Kakashi's chakra, but he made no move to indicate he knew the copy Nin was there. The man was early. Had he always been early? Maybe he wanted to see how his team worked out without him. He must have gotten a good laugh now and then at their stupid fights. Naruto opened his eyes when Sasuke came. The black-haired boy sat down and did not say anything. Naruto glanced at him with disinterest before closing his eyes once more and continued going through the techniques he had encountered during the years. Either he had seen a lot, or he was just slow with going through them because it felt like it never would end. Kakashi watched the two boys from his spot in a tree a small distance away and went over the information he had over Naruto once more. According to all the teachers in the academy, the blonde was loud, bad-mouthed, loved pranks, dressed in orange all the time, and was bad at everything except for his so-called sexy no jutsu. So how did he pass the last test flawlessly? How come the boy came to the academy for the tests, so unlike how he had been the day before? Normally Naruto always tried to pick a fight with Sasuke, so why did he not react now? He was interrupted by Naruto rising up. Sasuke glanced up as the boy walked towards the small lake nearby. "Where are you going?" the Uchiha finally asked. "I'm bored," Naruto replied in a prefect bored tone. Kakashi was faintly amused by it. "I'm going to train." "In the water? Never heard of water walking?" Naruto said, looking at the black-haired boy. Kakashi gaped. Water walking? Few newbie genins knew about that, and Naruto most certainly had not been one of them last time the copy Nin checked. As if to prove that Kakashi had wrong about everything about him, Naruto stepped out on the water without sinking, although he had to balance a bit in the beginning. The boy walked on the water until he came to the deep parts, fairly confident in himself. Sasuke stared at him, anger evident in his eyes. How did he dare show such power? How did he dare, having learned something that he, the Uchiha Sasuke, could not do? Naruto ignored the two of them and sat down cross-legged, keeping a smooth level of chakra rush through his body. For a moment Kyuubi made him unstable, and he shot out his arms without thinking, keeping himself balanced. The demon muttered an apology, and withdrew his chakra, allowing Naruto to sit steadily. There he resumed his thinking position and closed his eyes. Kakashi stared at the blonde boy. He had never seen a more relaxed position in the aspects of training water walking with a genin. Normally the children would struggle to be able to stand in the water at the beginning. How had Naruto learned such perfect chakra control? Sakura came to the training field and saw first Sasuke. She greeted on him despite being far away, quite loudly you can imagine, but he appeared not to hear her. His eyes were fixed on something else. Confused, she looked so see what he was staring at, and promptly began to stare as well. Naruto no Baka was sitting on water. That was water walking training, and no genin could master it easily. She of course had only read about it because she practically swallowed any books about shinobi training and such she came over. Good at studying, but she was not sure she would be able to do water training anytime soon. Kakashi finally made his appearance, making the pink-haired Kunoichi and the black-haired boy to turn to him. He smiled at them, looked at Naruto and called out, "Blondie, come here!" Naruto opened his eyes and looked at his teacher irritably at the nickname. Nonetheless, he rose up, a bit wobbly mind you, as he never really sat on water, and walked into shore. Kakashi tried to read the boy's face, but Naruto's face was like a blank sheet that made Kakashi uneasy. One other piece of information was that Naruto always grinned widely. So far he had not seen a smile on the boy's face. "Well then," Kakashi said, clapping his hands together, and they looked at him. "Time to check your skills, and see what you need to improve on." Naruto nearly blinked. This was not how it had been the first time around. Had something changed with Kakashi? Or maybe it was him who had made Kakashi change. Oh well, something had changed and that was it. He did not dwell long over such things as this. "You're just lazy, brat." Naruto mentally smacked the fox over the head. "First of all, I want to check your taijutsu," Kakashi said. "Sakura and Sasuke will fight against each other first. Then I will check Naruto. You two can begin." The two glared at the blonde because he got to fight against their teacher, but Naruto had already turned and walked to closest tree. There he sat down and crossed his legs, looking annoyingly relaxed. Kakashi raised an eyebrow but followed. He turned to look at the two children, now in basic taijutsu stance, and said, "Begin!" The two began immediately, and Kakashi watched them with his chin leaned onto his palm. Although Sakura's moves were flawed, the man saw she had learned the movements perfectly. It was just she never went outside of them, never made an own that did not match with what she had been taught. Sasuke, however, invented kicks and punches as he fought. Kakashi knew Sakura needed to practice taijutsu and be told to make up her own moves. When she had done that, she would become good in taijutsu. And he still had to talk to her about those clothes. After a few minutes, the girl was struck down. She looked embarrassed to have been defeated, but Sasuke did not take much notice of it. "That's enough," the gray-haired shinobi said, and the two looked at him. "Sasuke, excellent taijutsu, keep going on that. Sakura, while you do know the moves, you need to train them to make it more fluent. Also, not everything is like you have learned. Make up own moves, as those you were learned in the academy can't always protect you. Now, Naruto, I believe it's your turn." The man in disguise rose up and walked out to the field. "Don't fall on your nose, Naruto Baka!" Sakura called out after him. "Sakura," Kakashi said sternly, "I didn't hear Naruto saying such things to you, so what gives you the right?" "It's just he sucks in everything," the girl said and giggled behind her hand. "He will fall flat on his face, sensei, just watch." Naruto turned his head towards her, and Kakashi was convinced he saw the murder intent in the child's eyes and was sure for a moment he had to restrain the boy from killing her. But in the next moment the strange glint disappeared and Naruto spoke calmly. "Sakura, refrain yourself from speaking of things you don't know anything about." She looked at him strangely. Normally he would have flat out denied it and then gone on of much he loved her. Now there was not even a chan after her name, as he had always called her. Naruto turned to Kakashi and raised an eyebrow. The man nodded and said, "You can begin." Naruto blurred out from sight, and in the next moment Kakashi had to block a fist from hitting his face. He jumped away, startled at the fast movement, and Naruto followed without battling an eye. The boy did not let him have a break but attacked in every way he could. Kakashi managed pretty well at dodging for the first few minutes, and then he heard Sakura yell, "Is that even a fighting style, Naruto Baka?" Naruto's next kick felt a lot stronger, and the teacher was sent flying into a tree. He stared at the boy, who now had stopped. Never before had a genin managed to make him fly backwards. The blonde slowly moved his body into a taijutsu stance and waited. Kakashi blinked at the stance. He did not recognize it. "What kind of style is that?" Kakashi asked as he rose up. "My own," Naruto replied. Kakashi charged this time and knocked Naruto away. The boy made a flip in the air and landed safely, his eyes slightly bigger, which meant he did not expect that. The boy blurred away in the next second and Kakashi looked around. Then he felt pain in his left leg and jumped away before Naruto could complete the violent kick. He landed a bit away and gasped as he felt his sore muscle. That felt like a kick from an unrestrained guy. "Alright, let's stop," Kakashi said, and the boy slowly relaxed. "Excellent taijutsu, Naruto, and please don't try that kick on me again. That hurt." The last came out as a whine, and finally the man had lured a smile out of the boy. Naruto came forth and said, "You're pretty strong, sensei. That kick should have broken your leg." Kakashi stared. "What the hell did you do?" he asked. "I sent my chakra into your leg," Naruto said as a matter of fact. "I focus chakra in the spot I want it, I connect it with you and send the chakra out. Given a little more time, I would have broken your leg." The man rose up slowly and said while scratching his head, "Seems like I don't have to check chakra control on you. A pretty amazing trick. Mind if I tell it to a friend of mine?" "Why not?" Naruto said with a shrug. "It's not a secret, really." Sasuke looked at Naruto as the man in disguise came walking. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" the black-haired boy demanded to know. "By watching," Naruto replied flatly. "Alright, don't start an argument," Kakashi said and waved his hands around, seeing Sasuke's eyes narrow. "Let's see now what we will continue with." Naruto left the training field in deep thought. He still needed to train on genjutsus. No big surprise there, since he never understood it when he was younger and killed his enemies too quickly when he got older. He would not ask Sakura for help. Shikamaru and Gaara were not so good with genjutsu either, but Kurenai was a master in it. How was he supposed to approach her about it? As Naruto, or as Shiroi, decisions, however, I need to eat before that. As Kyuubi called him a hungry fool, Naruto mentally kicked him. Kurenai looked on as her team fooled around a bit with a smile, Akamaru barking and Hinata laughing at something Kiba said while Shino quietly listened. She felt like they had to be good friends in order to work well and therefore let them be with only each other after she had tested them. Kurenai-san? She turned around at the voice and widened her eyes. A man dressed completely in white stood behind her with frosty blue eyes and a motionless face. But his tone was polite, and he continued. I apologize for have startled you, Kurenai-san. No, it's fine, she said and relaxed slightly as she saw the Konoha Hittite on his belt. Forgive me, but I don't seem to recognize your face. I am not supposed to be that known, the man said and sat down. But I come at the suggestion from Hokage-sama. On what? She asked, curious of what the Sandaime had suggested to this strange man. You are quite known for your genjutsu skills, the man continued. And? I am unfortunately not quite as skilled at genjutsu as I am required to be, he said and looked over at her team briefly. So far I have survived without knowing much about this skill, but Sarutobi-sama wished me to learn. And that's where I come in? She asked, wide-eyed. He smiled a bit at her and said, yes. Sarutobi-sama said with your skills you would be able to make even a person like me better at genjutsu. Or at least being able to cancel them out when I need to. I don't have anything against it. I never caught your name? I am known as Shiroi and therefore my name must be Shiroi, the man said vaguely. Shiroi-san, she said, almost to herself. When are you free to practice? I have irregular hours, so to speak, Shiroi said and looked at her. I can be called to a mission 3 in the morning, or 7 in the evening. I must take whatever chance I have. I have my team as well, so mostly I will be free at evenings when I'm not on a mission, she said. Shiroi nodded and said, I am free tonight, as far as I know. Sarutobi-sama promised to try keeping me in the village during the time I need to learn genjutsu. Then our first lesson will be tonight, she said. How about 6? We'll meet by the Hokage Tower. That sounds perfectly fine, the man said and rose up smoothly. Is that your team? He pointed towards the 3 children. She nodded and said, they became a team just yesterday. Shiroi looked at them for a long time and then said, just yesterday? I would have guessed they had been a team for months. She turned to look at him, but he was already gone. We're going to run in with Team 7. Shiroi looked at Akai, who only pointed. The blonde man turned his head and looked as well. They were heading straight to where Team 7 was training at the moment. Shiroi had finally come across a technique that left him able to create a clone that would not disappear until he wanted it to. It had not been where he thought it would be, which annoyed him a little bit. But now it was done, so the Naruto with Team 7 was just a very good clone. So what? He finally said. They may need to know about us. I can pop up whenever they need me, and therefore they should know I work for the Hokage. Does Kakashi know? Kuroi asked. Nope, Shiroi replied. Sarutobi said we would be a secret to most of the village, especially to Danzu. Those 2 men like to play with each other, and right now Sarutobi is winning with us on his side. Quiet or they will hear you, Akai hissed. Kakashi was the first to notice, Sasuke the second. Sakura backed away while the clone of Naruto cocked his head, eyes suspicious. The copy Nin narrowed his eye at the sight of the 3 unfamiliar men and said, Who are you? Shiroi looked at him, bored, and then turned to Akai. Don't ignore us! Sakura shouted. Sakura, manners, the gray-haired man reminded. Well, where are theirs? She asked. The blonde man was just rude, not even telling us his name. Suddenly shadows locked her in place and she gave out a shriek. Kakashi grew tense and looked around, trying to locate where the shadows came from. Kurwa! They heard a deep but monotone voice say. She is a Konoha Kunoichi. And a genin on top of that. So what? They turned to look at the 3, and saw that the blonde and the black-haired man had entered a staring contest. The shadows floated from the black-haired and black-dressed man's body. Kakashi's eye narrowed. Was it a Nara or what? She insulted you, the black-dressed man said with a shrug. Kurwa, I'm warning you, but Shiroi-sama. They all stared at Shiroi. What had he done to earn such a title? Shiroi ignored them, took a hold of Kurwa and said, Insult or not, she's just a kid. Let her go, and act your age. It was better to give them a fearsome reputation than having Team 7 seeing them as three arguing men. Kurwa really wanted to stick his tongue out but held it in and let the shadows retreat from the girl. She fell down and the Team 7 went to her. "I'll tell Hokage-sama about you," she cried out, massaging her sore leg. "Then you will regret it." "Hokage-sama?" the red-headed man said, raising an eyebrow. "I don't think so." "No matter," Shiroi said as he released Kurwa. The man sent the blonde a half-hearted glare. Kurwa had never really liked Sakura, since she had been pretty rude as young. "She isn't hurt anyway, so why worry? We have to hurry if we are to make it to grass before nightfall. Why does he have to send us out on such short notice?" the black-haired man whined. "Because he's the Hokage," Shiroi replied tonelessly. "What Sarutobi-sama wants, we provided for him. Now let's go." The three vanished before Kakashi got a chance to do anything. He was left to stare at the place they had been standing on just moments before with his mouth open. The same thought went through his mind as well as Sasuke's and Sakura's. Who were those three? Chapter 5. With a start, Naruto woke up and he blinked a few times, staring at the roof. Then he looked at the clock and blinked again. 3.5 hours. That was longer than he usually slept. The man yawned lightly and sat up, looking around the tiny apartment, and was glad he had gotten in a bed that he could actually sleep comfortable in. He got up and went to the bathroom to freshen up. Within minutes he emerged again, in a henge as his younger self, and pulled out the clothing he was going to wear. He gathered up his hair and realized it was not quite enough for a ponytail. He growled lightly and altered the henge slightly, making the hair a bit longer. Then he put the hair up and reached for his hitayate, tying it around his neck. For today and the next few days he was going to be with Team 7 as Sarutobi had no immediate need for him, Gaara and Shikamaru. He leaped out from the window and jumped across rooftops until he reached Shikamaru's and Gaara's house. He entered and saw Gaara was already up, not having changed into his henge yet. The man was reading a scroll, sitting by the low table in the living room, and looked up once Naruto entered. "Morning," the red-headed man said before returning to his scroll. "Where's Shikamaru?" "Asleep," Gaara said. "Figured I'd let him." Naruto nodded and sat down. "Why are you in a henge so early?" Gaara said, looking him over. "Because we're gonna have our first real mission," Naruto said. "Last time I had to complain my way to it, and now it's just handed to us." "Which one is it?" "The one with Zabuza and Haku." "Oh." Gaara had heard the story once, when Naruto had been too drunk to keep it inside. The blonde had never really gotten over their deaths. "What are you going to do this time?" Gaara's voice startled him, and Naruto looked up at his friend. "Save them," was his answer. "They deserve life." "I see. You won't need our help then?" "No," Naruto said. "I'll handle it. You guys relax, you know, it won't hurt you if you yourself relaxed once in a while," Gaara reminded. "It's not like everyone is going to die because you sleep longer than 2 hours." The blonde man ducked his head, so he had been discovered. "Naruto, I know you," the red-headed man said. "What the hell? The man was a mind reader as well?" Somehow, Naruto was not sure if he wanted to know just how Gaara knew, and was blissfully interrupted from his thoughts with the redhead continuing. "You don't sleep, you work until you collapse and you refuse to relax. Now, what time were you going to meet with your team?" 9. "It's only 6. I wasn't tired." "Liar." Sigh. There was no use lying to the man. "I couldn't sleep," Naruto said. "And I don't want to." Gaara frowned and then reached over the table. He took Naruto's hand lightly and tugged. Naruto raised an eyebrow, definitely not fitting the young look, but complied and scooted over to the red-headed man's side. Gaara had to admit that his friend looked a bit small as a 12-year-old, not to mention pretty adorable, never saying that aloud to Naruto though, if he wished to keep his head where it was. With the annoying clothes gone, too much orange, and that ridiculous smile, or rather annoying not to mention half-fake grin, he looked more vulnerable than the red-headed man wanted to admit. Gaara pulled Naruto close, ignoring disguised man's protest, and held him against his chest, an action that surprised them both. Neither had really been that much for touching someone else. People were too scared of Gaara, and Naruto had learned his lesson through bruising: don't touch people because it will only hurt in the end. The blonde man eventually stopped struggling, knowing that once Gaara had decided on something you could not make him change with ease, and simply rested against the other man however reluctant he was to do that. Eventually Naruto's eyes closed, And before he knew it, he was asleep. Gaara grinned, mission accomplished. The blond man in disguise woke up slowly to a hand stroking his hair, something only Irika had done on occasion when he had been real little. Naruto blinked and looked up at Gaara sleepily. The blonde was lying down, Gaara seated next to him. Morning again, Gaara said. What time is it? Naruto asked as he rubbed his eyes. 8:30, the man replied. Thought you wanted some breakfast before going. Would be nice, the blond man said. I'll go and get something ready then, the red-headed man said and got up. Gaara? Naruto asked before said man could leave the room. What? Thanks, the man in disguise said, not looking at the redhead, and they both knew it was not for the offer of breakfast. Gaara smiled, answering, You're welcome. Naruto met Kakashi by the tower 10 to 9. If the disguised man was surprised to see the shinobi in time, he did not show it. Morning, Naruto, the man said, looking up briefly from his book. Morning, sensei, Naruto replied, feeling stupid calling someone who was actually younger than him for sensei. Oh well, he could not exactly stop calling Kakashi that. The man got easily suspicious if he did. To distract himself, and have something to do, Naruto looked at the cover of the book Kakashi was reading. Was he surprised to read Ika Ika Paradise on the cover? Damn pervert. At least some things never changed. You're an early riser, aren't you? What do you mean? Naruto asked. I saw you leave your apartment around 6, Kakashi said. That was pretty early. Oh. I couldn't sleep and went over to a friend. I had a nap there, Naruto said, not even battling an eyebrow at finding out Kakashi was up by 6. Maybe having calling the gray-haired man for lazy in the future had been a bit wrong. You could say I woke up a half hour ago. A friend? He's not a shinobi, Naruto said and looked at the sky. He lives with his father. I visit them from time to time. Oh. Another thing that Kakashi had no idea about. Naruto glanced at the man and saw the copynin look at him over the cover of the book, however discreet he tried to be. Is there something you want to ask, sensei? Naruto said, startling the man. Not really. Just didn't know you had a friend who wasn't a shinobi. He's too lazy to be one anyway, Naruto said with a slight smile. A part of it was true. It was a miracle that Shikamaru even had the energy to have become a shinobi. Too lazy, huh? Kakashi said, glad to be able to see a smile on his student's face, although small. Sounds like any Nara in this village. Naruto did not stiffen but only replied. He sure fits in with them, although I think he likes sleeping far too much. Soon enough Sakura and Sasuke came, and it made Naruto close up again and resume his normal blank expression. Kakashi did not like it but could do little to make him change. An hour later they were moving out from the village with Tazuna. The man was drunk as old times, but this time Naruto did not complain. He simply trudged along, looking around at scenes he had seen before. It had not changed much in the future, Naruto mused as he glanced around. Kakashi was reading his book as usual, being in front of their client. Sasuke walking behind Tazuna and Sakura seemed to want to hold his hand. Sasuke's eyebrow would have a permanent twitch any moment. The man in disguise felt slightly sorry for the boy. Naruto himself was walking to the side, not too far from Kakashi but also not too close. He wanted his space, and the copynin seemed to understand that. When they set up camp for the night, Naruto was signed up as the first watch. Shrugging, he went and sat down against a tree. He watched them fall asleep and sighed lightly. He had to plan what to do. He should kill Gato first and deal with Zabuza and Haku later. With that in mind, he focused partly on planning and partly on watching over his team and Tazuna while they slept. Kakashi woke up in time for his shift to see Naruto sitting not far away in a meditation position. If that was not strange enough, one of his eyes was completely closed while the other open. The copynin blinked at the scene and was startled when Naruto said, "What looks so funny, sensei, that you must stare at me? Why is one of yours eyes closed?" Kakashi asked. "Oh, I can focus better," Naruto said. "I use one eye to watch and the other to amuse myself." Kakashi stared. "What the hell? Amuse yourself?" the copynin said uncertainly. "Reading," Naruto said. "I have read some books so many times I'm able to remember them, word for word." At least it was books he liked, and not boring ones. He would never touch a boring book unless someone ordered him to. "Right. What the hell?" Kakashi stared at him. "Are you joking with me?" the man finally asked. "Nope. You're going to let me go to sleep?" Sorry. Yeah, I got it now so you can rest. Naruto closed his other eye and slowly let the head fall forward. His breathing deepened, and before Kakashi could say anything, such as if Naruto wanted to lie down, the man in disguise was really asleep. Naruto woke up in the morning and saw Kakashi was watching him. Don't you have pain in your neck? The copy asked. The man in disguise considered this, and then rolled his head and shoulders. A small twinge gave him the answer, but it would be gone soon. It'll pass, Naruto replied. Are the others up? Sakura is getting some water and Sasuke is collecting wood. Tazuna is asleep. Naruto nodded, and got up from his position. Sleeping in the meditation position had been rather easy thanks to some tips Gaara had given him. And he had slept for more than 2 hours. That was nice for a change. Starting to do light stretches, Naruto decided to let Kakashi's gazing at him slide. Naruto looked at the water on the road, and sighed. How could he have missed that one the last time? It was in plain sight. Well, he was not very good at paying attention when he was young, and even to this day he did have a lack of concentration from time to time. Of course, he was also doing other things the last time, like annoying the hell out of everyone else. Naruto could not really remember why he did that, but he was not going to do it again. He himself knew that really started to trigger feelings like kill, kill, kill. Instead, he stopped discreetly by the water, kneeling down and waving Kakashi on. The copy hesitated for a moment, then walked on. Once alone, the blonde placed a piece of paper on the water and made a seal with his hand, activating what was written on the paper, courtesy of Shikamaru, who had done some various research on seals while not having a mission. Instantly the water turned to ice. Naruto grinned. It would take the two brothers a while to break the seal, and by then, it was all going to be over. He jogged lightly to catch up with the small group before they could notice he was too far behind. Could not have that now, could he? Are we there soon? Sakura asked. Not so far ahead, Tazuna said. You said that an hour ago. Naruto had to mutter under his breath, and Sasuke reluctantly agreed from where he walked next to the man in disguise. And before that, you said it again, and fucking again. Sasuke's lips twitched, his control slipping. Naruto continued to glare at the man's back. Yeah, he liked Tazuna, but he had forgotten how slow the journey was. What are you muttering about, Naruto? Kakashi asked, turning to look at the blonde. Nothing, sensei, Naruto said. Just want to be there already. First mission outside the village tend to be a bit long, the copy said. You'll get used to it soon. About fucking time, the man muttered. I hate being bored. This time a small smile flickered across Sasuke's face, so quick only Naruto had chance to see it. He inwardly smirked. He was making some progress with the Ice Prince. Naruto was more than ready by the time he felt Zabuza's chakra. He heard the giant sword soar through the air, and then Kakashi screamed. Everyone, get down! He made a light crouch and felt the wind over his head as the sword went over them. The solid thud told him it had hit a tree. The former Mist Shinobi had a good aim. Well, if it isn't Hatake Kakashi the copy Naruto looked up at Zabuza and managed to hold the smile in. He was not supposed to smile at an enemy, but man, he was happy to see the guy alive and breathing. Even if he did not know Zabuza at all, he knew the man should have lived the first time around. Everyone, get back, Kakashi said. This man is way above your level. Naruto, still in his crouched position, brought out a scroll and opened it. At the first symbol he placed his hand and released it. A moment later he held a blood-red shuriken in his hand, its edges quickly filling with his chakra in their custom-made channels. This one had followed him, along with many other things, from the future and was the only one of its kind. Seems like one of your brats are ready. The rest of the group looked on as Naruto stood up, holding the shuriken in his hand. What is so special about that shuriken, brat? Zabuza said. Let's see which one is stronger. Your famous sword Kubikiri Hocho won, or my shuriken, Naruto said with a chilly smile, casting away some of the young-looking features in his face. Seems like you've been sneak reading the bingo book, Zabuza said with a grin. He looked over at the shocked Kakashi and continued. By looking at your teacher's face, something tells me he didn't know that. Always be prepared, Naruto said. Plus I was bored and got my hands on a copy. The demon from Hidden Mist jumped down, sword in his hand. You sure you want to go up against me? When I was your age, your hands were already soaked in blood, Naruto said. That's old news, man. You are the demon from Hidden Mist. Zabuza's grin widened underneath the bandages that was wrapped around the lower part of his face. Seems like it will be a bit more interesting killing you than copycat Kakashi, he said and swung his sword. It went like a boomerang through the air towards Naruto. The man in disguise turned the shuriken so it was vertical at his side and shouted out, Kenkazi! 2. The shuriken began to spin, chakra moving out as a wind, enough to make Naruto's clothes flap in the wind, the open jacket behind him. Zabuza's eyes widened as the sword's sharp edge met the shuriken's spinning blades and went backwards. Don't worry, Naruto said. I've only had Kenkazi for a little while, but I've realized it can deflect most blades. Not even one of the swords of the 7 swordsmen from Mist seems to discourage it. Said sword landed, blade dug into the earth, not far from the man. Zabuza looked on as the blades calmed down, and now looked like any other shuriken in the boy's hand. That's no genin material, he said lowly, making sure to keep an eye on Kakashi and the others as well. The copy nin had moved on hand to his Hittite, ready to remove it at a moment's notice. Chunin at the very least. A genin can have more chakra than usual, Naruto said with a shrug. I guess I have. Zabuza walked up to his sword and got it up before looking between the Konoha shinobis. The girl was no match, he could see that directly. She was shaking despite her best efforts of not doing it. She held a kunai between her hands, ready to defend the bridge worker. But her eyes showed she was terrified. That occasionally happened when genins moved from simple demissions to a life-threatening situation outside their village. The black-haired brat was not as nervous and scared. Instead, he was focused and could be a bit more troublesome than the pinky brat. Kakashi would be dangerous, if allowed to take off his Hittite, and he would when he feels it becoming dangerous. But the blonde, there was something off about him. Something he did not like. It was a twisting feeling when Zabuza looked into those blue eyes, something that frightened him. Naruto grinned. Seems like the demon from Mist felt the presence of a real demon, a Biju. Motivated by this, Kyuubi increased his chakra just the tiniest bit and Naruto allowed a mere edge of the demon's killer intent out. Sakura froze in place when she felt the intent, her eyes wide and tears at the corners of them. She felt her heart hammering in her chest, ready to give up on her. She was so scared, but had no idea of what. Sasuke looked around, wondering where the hell the killer intent came from. It seemed from everywhere, like the earth itself had raised its protest of a battle that had yet to come in action. Kakashi was staring at Naruto. This was Kyuubi's killer intent, no mistake. Was the blonde really in so little control of the demon? Was he going to lose himself in the demon's seductive powers and allow Kyuubi to take over? Zabuza felt his knees go weak when he felt the chakra. It was so full with power he could hardly breathe. The air crackled with tension, with fear and with hate. He could even smell it, a disgusting scent worming its way inside of him. Kid, just what the hell are you? Naruto looked at the man and said, Just another Konoha shinobi. Kenkazi! The shuriken began to spin once more and this time Naruto threw it. He slapped his hands together and shouted, Wind release, dancing wind! The blades widened and the slashes of the wind coming from them expanded until Zabuza felt he had to escape quickly. He jumped upwards and saw the blonde strike his hand upwards. To his horror, the blade changed direction and came speeding up towards him. Kakashi-sensei! Naruto shouted. The teacher looked startled at him. This may look easy, but it's exhausting as hell. That was a lie, but he had to play along. He was supposed to be 12. This was a technique he could easily use when he was 32 years old, but as 12 he should have a bit more trouble with it. Finish him off! Kakashi nodded and slid the Hittite up, revealing his Sharingan eye. Naruto looked up where Zabuza was and estimated the distance. Kakashi would perhaps get in a few hits before Haku would show up. Naruto let the shuriken drop and fell on one knee. Kyuubi grumbled in weak protest but said nothing. He knew they had to pretend, but that did not mean he enjoyed it. The shuriken landed with a thud on the ground and Naruto released the technique. It was not exhausting at all, but it was rather difficult to control Kenkazi, and since Naruto had his lack in concentration moments, he managed to create some chaos with it from time to time. Predictably, once Kakashi had Zabuza at his mercy, Haku showed up. Naruto watched the scene from his spot, and then the disguised boy moved from the scene, Zabuza with him. Sakura fell to her knees, the now lack of tension making her body stop running on adrenaline. Naruto shook his head lightly at that as Sasuke had to help her up. In time, perhaps in time. Tazuna helped as well, shaking but still standing. The old man had guts, and that was good. Naruto, are you alright? He looked up, surprised, and saw Kakashi holding out a hand for him. The blonde took it and got up. I'm fine, he said and went to get his shuriken. Just a bit windblown. Very funny, Kakashi said. He did not sound very amused. I mean it, are you alright? Yes, pretty much. Just no running. Naruto lied. Unless you really want me to fall flat on my face. He referred to their first day, when Sakura had said he would. Alright, no running. Naruto sealed the weapon again and rolled up the scroll, placing it back in his pouch. Now he got sight of Sakura and Sasuke. They were both staring shocked at him. They had after all never seen him use a weapon like that. When did you get that shuriken? Kenkazi? Kakashi asked. My friend, you remember him? Yeah. His dad had it, Naruto said. Since he didn't know how to use it, he gave it to me. Told me once I got a hang of Kenkazi it would be a hell of a weapon. It is already. Do you have any more secrets I should know about? The man asked, tone light. Not for the moment, Naruto replied, a grin on his face. Kakashi eye widened. It was the first time he had seen such a face on his student's face. Shall we maybe ask Tazuna-san why he has a missing nin after him? Kakashi nodded and turned to look at the bridge worker. Naruto felt more than saw his two teammates' looks as they walked towards Tazuna's house. He could not blame them, but it was still irritating. And the fact he soon had to put up with Inari's nagging was wearing him down. We're here! He looked up at the familiar house, although it had been quite some time since he last saw it, and was shuffled in with the others. Welcome back! Tsunami was happy to see her father, and happily greeted on each of them. Inari stood by the door to the kitchen, sulking. Inari, say hello to our guests. What does it matter? The boy nearly shouted. They'll be dead in a few days anyway. Everyone who tries to go up against Gato dies. He ran out of the room. Naruto sighed mentally. That brat had not changed in any way. I'm very sorry about that, Tsunami said and smiled apologetically. He's just, well, no matter. You all must be starving. Please come in, take a seat. Sakura volunteered to help the woman make some food to them all, and the two disappeared into the kitchen while the others sat down by the low table. Naruto sank down and gave a sigh of relief of finally being able to rest his legs. This journey had been troublesome. Damn, he was starting to sound like Shikamaru. The blonde man mentally screamed at the brunette before turning his attention to what happened around him. You really sure you're okay, Naruto? You look tired, Kakashi said, looking at the blonde closely. Since when did he get so observant? Maybe I am a bit tired, the blonde admitted. While using Kenkazi had not even made him break a sweat, he wanted to sleep for a little bit. It was amusing how quickly he had started craving sleep. Kakashi looked at the blonde who was sleeping on one of the futons, having passed out like a light once the opportunity allowed him. He studied the face, so peaceful in sleep, and then turned his attention outside. There was something about the blonde he had missed. Something they all seemed to miss. He tried to think on people who knew the blonde and realized it probably was only Irika who had any idea how he was. Yumino Irika was the only one who seemed to give a damn about the blonde boy. Or that friend, whoever it was. Maybe he could get Naruto to introduce him to them? Kakashi felt he wanted to learn more about the blonde, as all of the information about him seemed to speak against him. He had to discover the boy on his own. Naruto looked around the gloomy town with a small sigh. He had left a copy with Team 7, now looking like himself. He was on his way for his own little mission, killing Gato and finding Zabuza and Haku. First thing though was killing Gato, because if Gato was dead the two did not have to kill Tazuna. Then it was to find those two and have a bit of a chat with them. He began walking down the street, wrapping the brown traveling cloak tighter around himself. Otherwise he was dressed in gray pants, brown boots and a brown shirt, not looking like a shinobi at all. He had hidden his hair underneath the hood of the cloak and moved without slowing down to step into any store. He wanted this over, and quickly so. Maybe it would not go as quickly as he wanted. Naruto skillfully took his copy's place and it vanished in thin air, memories of the day rushing back to him. Sakura and Sasuke had trained their chakra control while Kakashi and Naruto had helped Tazuna with the house. Then he had not missed anything, good. This allowed him to sit down outside while waiting for dinner. Tsunami had wanted to do it on her own, shooing both shinobis outside into the evening sun, and think up with a plan. Gato's place was well guarded, and not something you just could jump into and start hacking away enemies. Or well, you could, but it did not necessarily mean he really should. Gato had a lot of greedy people on his side, people who cared little for anyone but themselves. Naruto knew he would more or less hack away at the enemies, just jumping in, but he wanted to know at least a vague layout of the place. Hence the reason why he had gotten his hands on the layout of the house, manor really, that Gato lived in. Kyuubi and he now went over it in his mind, as he had not managed to take a copy with him. Naruto? He looked up as Kakashi sat down next to him. You looked lost in thoughts. Maybe I was a bit, Naruto said with a shrug. What's up, sensei? Although weird calling Kakashi sensei, it was also a bit nice. He had missed it. Nothing much. No Ika Paradise to read? I don't read it all the time. The man groaned. Only 99% of the time, the disguised man said with a small smirk. How rude, Kakashi said with a sniff. Haku was collecting some herbs early in the morning, while Zabuza was still sleeping. His recovery was proceeding nicely, but Haku wanted him to be as strong as possible before facing Kakashi and that blonde kid again. The other two on the team did not seem to be as dangerous, but one never knew for sure. He suddenly turned around, looking around the meadow, body tense like ready for a blow to come. None came and he slowly relaxed. Glancing around once more, the boy decided it was enough herbs and moved away. Damn, that was close, Naruto said as he slid down onto the ground. Man, I forgot this was the place. What place? He whirled around where he sat, and he stared for a moment before his shoulders sagged. What are you two doing here? Gaara and Shikamaru glanced at each other first, then at him. Make sure you don't fuck up, plus you don't have to do everything on your own, Shikamaru replied. And no, don't start saying we should go back and you can handle it. We want to be part of this. Naruto looked at the two and seemed to relax. Fine, he said, adding a small smile at that. Gaara whooped in joy mentally. He had made the right choice. Naruto hated responsibility, and probably sharing it with him and Shikamaru made it all easier. So, the shadow user said, mind telling us what you found out so far? Killing Gato won't be any problem, Shikamaru said once Naruto finished. How so? Just make sure he's alone and we're practically done. Only problem he never is. Make it so, Gaara said. Naruto thought for a little while and then said, how about we defeat all of his henchmen and convince him we three is all he needs? Like the sound of it, Gaara said. I shouldn't use sand here, should I? No, don't, Naruto said. And Shikamaru, don't show off your shadow too much. Got it, boss, the man said, saluted, and the blonde snorted at that. Shall we go then? Gaara asked. The quicker we do this, the faster we are done. Chapter 6. Naruto looked on as Sakura and Sasuke trained with one eye, the other was closed. He was supposed to mediate, but the noises when they fell down from the trees distracted him quite a bit. So instead he had opted to secretly watch them. He knew Kakashi saw he was not paying attention, but the man had so far not said anything. Maybe he found it funny too. When he did not read Ika Paradise, he had to focus on something. However, Naruto would not be watching them the whole time. He, Shikamaru, and Gaara were going to infiltrate Gato's manor today, and get rid of the man and whoever was stupid enough to stand in their way. After dinner, Naruto discreetly left a copy of himself behind in child form, and went to meet up with Shikamaru and Gaara. He moved swiftly through the streets, clad in a brown cloak that hid his body, hair, and upper face. In his hurry, he did not notice Kakashi walking behind him. The copy-nin had noticed the brown-cloaked man and his rather impressive chakra, despite he probably tried to hide it, and decided to track the man for a little bit. He left Akage Bunshin back with his team, figuring he would be back in a few minutes. His eye widened as two men joined the first, their chakra somewhat ominous and focused. They moved swiftly out from the town, and with a little dread Kakashi realized they were going towards Gato's manor. Still, he followed them. Any information would be good at this point. Naruto stopped once they reached the gates, and all the hired people turned to glare at them within the gates. Some of them unsheathed their swords. Well, don't they look like a cheerful bunch? Shikamaru said and raised an eyebrow. Gaara snorted at that. We're not here to play games no matter how much we want it, Naruto said. No names. Got it, boss, Shikamaru said and saluted. Naruto shook his head, The shadow user apparently loved that gesture. Kakashi watched from a tree the scene, wondering what the three were going to do against all those hired men. "What the hell are you doing here?" one man screamed at the three. "We wish to meet with Gato-san, that's all you need to know," Naruto called out. "Well, it ain't happening. Don't recognize your faces, so no meeting, no nothing. We aren't even showing our faces." The brunette's sweat dropped. Naruto tore off his cloak, grinned and said, "Well then, we'll just simply have to force our way through." Kakashi understood in that moment this was two scenarios. 1. They were greedy and would kill to get as much money for themselves, or 2. Their final objection was to assassinate Gato. He looked at the one who had torn his cloak off. His hair was hidden, and he was dressed in black clothing. He could not get a clear view of the face. The other two tore off their cloaks as well. The one to the left had red hair and 2 katanas on his back. The one to the right had black hair and a few scrolls resting on his left hip. The two were like the first man dressed in black, and a moment later, before Kakashi could see their faces, they blurred out of sight. Naruto drop-kicked one man in the head, not even bothering to listen to the breaking of the neck, already moving on to the next one. Cruel, yes, but he had been cruel for years. War changed someone, no matter how much he hated it. Gaara got his katanas and slashed through people left and right without problems. There was no real need to be gentle and just knock them out. These people did this for money. They did not care if they killed someone, so why should the three show these scum mercy? Shikamaru got out one of the scrolls and summoned 3 shurikens he subtly controlled with his shadow. Like a puppeteer with his puppets, Shikamaru threw out his hands and the shurikens flew through the air. Kakashi watched them work with his eye wide open. It was messy, bloody and completely heartless. They tore through human flesh like it was nothing. Perhaps for those 3 it was nothing. All too soon they had wiped them all out, and Gaara cleaned his katanas. "Should we just go inside and kill Gato?" he asked Naruto. "Yeah. I don't think I can follow through and act like I'm on his side," Naruto said. "I vote for that," Shikamaru said and walked up to them. Kakashi debated whether to stay or not, wondering if someone of Gato's men perhaps were in town, just waiting for a chance to kill Tazuna. He watched them walk inside. He took the chance, and followed them. Naruto, Gaara and Shikamaru stopped once they reached Gato's room as they heard him and another person talk. Kakashi, hidden in the shadows, was not far from them. He still could not get a clear view of the first man's face. It was like his eyesight got blurry once he looked at him. The other two were vaguely familiar, but he could not place them, no matter how hard he tried. Plus he only saw their upper faces. They had put on cloths on their lower faces while entering the manor. Silent as the grave, the 3 men and the hidden Kakashi listened on to the conversation on the other side of the door. "What are you going to do, Gato-sama?" "Do? Nothing. In a little while that blasted bridge worker will be gone, and I can have complete control," Gato said in glee. "I sent Zabuza and to attack him." "Shit," Shikamaru muttered. "Do we need to hear more?" "No, kill him," Naruto said quietly. "I'll go ahead." "Do so, we'll catch up," Gaara said. They did not notice Kakashi, but that was because the moment he heard about Zabuza he had taken off. So now he was running the fastest he could towards the bridge, cursing himself. He should not have followed. He should have stayed with his team. They were not going to be able to beat Zabuza. Naruto had some luck last time, shocking the man with the information, but that was not going to last forever. Sakura was not strong enough, and it was the same with Sasuke. If the boy had the Sharingan then maybe, but he had not. So now he hoped he would arrive in time to help them. Naruto landed on the beginning of the bridge and was surrounded by mist. Zabuza was here, so was Kakashi. They were fighting. He quickly located his copy, then Sakura, Sasuke and Tazuna. Sasuke's chakra was weak. Naruto ran off into the mist as he felt Haku close in on the 3. His copy had received a serious cut in the leg, and could not move very well. Time for a surprise. Haku stood not far from the 3, Sakura holding Sasuke's body close. Naruto noted he had Sharingan activated and felt a bit relieved. The boy was still conscious. That meant he was not as badly injured as last time. But with the way his chest was heaving, he was exhausted. "Time for you to die," Haku said quietly. "Farewell." He threw his senbons, but Naruto was quicker. He landed in front of the 3, crouched down with one leg behind him slightly to give support, as he threw his arms out, and released a powerful charge of chakra-filled wind. He blew away the senbons as well as the mist, also making Haku skid across the bridge. Kakashi and Zabuza looked up and Kakashi's eyes widened, both his normal and his Sharingan one. The same man that had killed Gato's men. Naruto straightened up and looked on as Haku got up. "Who are you?" the boy shouted. "We've killed Gato," Naruto said to him. "There is no longer a reason for you to kill these people." Haku hesitated. "Why did you kill him?" Zabuza asked, confused but still ready to engage in a fight again. Naruto turned his head to look at the man and said, "I only made the world a favor." He blurred out of sight and kicked Zabuza away from Kakashi. "Zabuza-san!" Gaara and Shikamaru appeared on each side of Zabuza, grabbed him and vanished. Naruto grabbed Haku around the waist, looked at Kakashi and let his face become clear for a moment. "You!" Kakashi exclaimed in shock as he recognized the black-dressed man as the mysterious Shiroi from Konoha. "Until later then, Kakashi-san," Naruto said and vanished. Zabuza looked at the three men after they had told exactly what they had done, and finally nodded. "Guess you saved me from a possible stupid death," he said. "We'll move on then, I suppose." Naruto did not try to make them come with them to Konoha. Why bind them to a village full of hatred and mistrust, and force them to listen to the council? No, he'd rather have them free. "Don't get caught," he said. "I would hate to become your reaper." His smile frightened the demon from mist, and a moment later Zabuza and Haku were alone in the meadow. Naruto slid back to his spot without problems and let Kakashi fuss over the faked wound after he had finished fussing with Sasuke. The blonde never took his perverted teacher for a fussing one, but apparently he was mistaken. "Sensei, I'm fine," he said. "Just a cut. A deep one. You're going to limp while it's healing." Kyubi muttered in his mind, faint whispers, and Kakashi felt the demon chakra focus on the wound. He looked up sharply at Naruto. The man decided to act clueless and said, "What?" "Nothing." "What my ass?" "Shut up, Kyubi." "Come on, can you stand?" Naruto allowed himself to take Kakashi's hands and pulled himself up. "I'll survive it," the blonde said. "How's Sasuke?" "He's asleep, probably will do that for a while," Kakashi said. "I'm going to help finishing the bridge. You guys stay here and relax." Naruto looked at him, wondering what was different. Something was different about Kakashi, or had it been so long since he had seen him that Naruto had forgotten the copy name completely? Kakashi knew something was up with Naruto. Something was wrong. He was too calm, too collected. He must know about Kyubi. There had to be something. Could it be that Kyubi whispers sweet lies into the child's ears and Naruto is beginning to believe in them? Could it really have gone that bad? No, he would not think of Naruto as a monster. The child was not a threat. He was just lonely, having nothing but a demon's company, and that mysterious friend. Seriously, Kakashi had to make Naruto introduce them. He was going insane otherwise. "Sensei, aren't you supposed to go to the bridge?" He jumped high and whirled around. Naruto looked at him. "I'm on my way," he said. "You shouldn't scare your elders like that. What a shinobi you are, can't even notice a 12-year-old sneak up on you." Naruto muttered and limped outside. "Naruto, when we get back to the village, would you mind introducing your friend to me?" Naruto looked at the man, genuinely confused. Something was wrong with Kakashi, or he did care. He blinked, realized the man had asked a question and answered. "Sure, why not?" Maybe their relationship would be different this time around. Last time, they had barely known each other. Kakashi had done everything in his power to teach Sasuke about Sharingan, leaving Naruto behind, not knowing how much he had hurt the blonde. Thus, his thoughts lead from the copy Nin to his mentor Jiraiya, and then his mind screeched to a half and Naruto forced the memories away. Too late. Kakashi became concerned as Naruto grabbed his head lightly, muttering something under his breath. "Are you alright?" he asked. "I'm fine. Just a bit of headache," Naruto said as he chased the images of the dead white-haired man away. The blood, the vacant eyes, the rain that hid Naruto's tears. Kyubi shoved the images away and soothing, burning red chakra flowed into the blonde. Kakashi's eye widened as he felt the demon chakra fill Naruto for a moment before retreating back to the blonde's belly. Naruto took down his hand and Kakashi realized in that moment that Kyubi was taking away Naruto's pain, whatever it might be, even though he was a demon and should hate the child he was sealed in. "He's gaining on us. Shoo it up, Kyubi. Man, you sure are easy to piss off today." Naruto looked up at the man and saw he could not lie about it. "He's not dangerous," Naruto said. "At least not to me." He's not trying to take over? Kakashi asked. Nope. He likes to scare people though. So that was only for scaring, the show a few days prior when Naruto freaked out Sabuza a bit. Naruto, I want you to tell me the moment you think he's trying to take over, Kakashi said and looked at him. I don't want anything bad happen to you just because of that thing. I'm not a thing, you fucker. Kyuubi, I'm warning you, scream again, and I'll fucking strangle you. Naruto smiled a bit and said, You got it. Naruto smiled as he saw the gates come in view. He might not like Konoha that much, but he was looking forward for new missions with Shikamaru and Gaara. The two had returned directly after vanishing from the meadow, and that meant they had not spoken for some days. He kinda missed them. Sakura was still trying to gain Sasuke's attention, and Kakashi was watching him as he had done for the last few days. So he was the only to notice that Naruto's steps got lighter, and he walked ahead of all of them. His blue eyes widened a bit when he saw Shikamaru in his disguise form by the gates. Naruto! Welcome back! The rest of his team stopped in shock at seeing the cheerful guy waving to the blonde. Naruto thanked Gaara, who had thought ahead and given them both false names. Enju! Naruto called out, and then turned to Kakashi. Is it okay? Sure, Kakashi said. The man in disguise grinned, shocking the copy-nin even more, and then ran up to this Enju. Shikamaru looked over at them all quickly, then said, Dad's at home. Dinner's on us tonight. Come on. Sakura had her jaw almost hitting the ground in shock. Sasuke blinked twice. Kakashi definitely had a thing or two to learn about this strange blonde brat. That was a good show, I suppose, Naruto said. Shikamaru grinned as he sat down on the low table in the living room. Ain't to lie though. Gaara wants to try this new dish and told me to kidnap you and drag you here. Yeah, fat chance you can do that. If I wriggle my fingers a bit and ask the shadows for a favor, you won't be saying that for much longer, Shikamaru said with a grin. Ugh, stop wriggling them like that. Shikamaru cackled evilly. Kakashi looked at the house he had seen Naruto and Enju enter. It was not that big, but it had a rather nice yard, calming and private from prying eyes. Of course not from a shinobi who sat in the trees like Kakashi did, but they did not have to know that particular detail. Suddenly the slide door opened and Naruto stepped out. The kid followed and flopped down on the wooden floor, yawning. What Kakashi presumed was the father came out last, carrying a tray with steaming teacups and a plate with a dessert. He sat down rather gracefully and put the tray down. Naruto took one of the teacups and laid down on his stomach, while Enju rolled over so he could rest his head on the blonde's back. Lazy ass, Naruto said. Shut up, Enju growled. The man chuckled at them both, and Kakashi was struck how like a family they were. He silently moved away to leave Naruto alone. Chapter 7. Author's note: I will shift between Naruto Shiroi, Gaara Kai, and Shikamaru Kurwa just so you know. But their real names are Naruto, Gaara, and Shikamaru. Don't worry about that. We'll also refer Naruto as disguised man when he is in henge as his child form, boy or child. It's easier to call him boy or child when it's Kakashi or someone else thinking about him. Enju is Shikamaru in boy disguise. Jaiden is Gaara in disguise. Naruto looked himself in the mirror, checking the length of his hair. Satisfied, he pulled it into a ponytail and checked his clothes briefly. White shirt, dark blue pants, and a black vest. Good enough. He fastened the pouch and kunai holster, making sure to have his scrolls with him within another scroll. Ready for the day, he got out. Kakashi was reading his book lazily, lying on a branch, when he saw Naruto run towards the waterfall not too far away. The man frowned. Team 7 had a free day, so why was the teen up and running at this time of the morning? It was barely 8. Naruto, wait up! Come on, lazy ass, you do know how to run! Enji came in sight and screamed in rage before following Naruto. Kakashi put away the book and watched the two boys. The father came walking in a more moderate pace, carrying a shoulder bag. The shinobi watched them with interest. It felt a bit like a picnic. He had some time before he was supposed to be at the Hokage Tower, so he carefully followed. Gaara sat down as he watched Naruto push Shikamaru into the water, Shikamaru not managing to stop it, and fell down with his arms waving around. It was rather entertaining to play the father. His name in this form was Jaiden, and he had retired from work despite his rather young age due to his wife's death in water. They had moved here when Naruto was 9 and the boy had met Enju, in the age of 12 then, and had become friends fast. Perfect lie, Plus no one seemed to complain. It was not many that lived around them, and those who did were old, and usually forgot what day and year it was. Most of the time they forgot who he was too. "You fucker!" Enju shouted as he got up. "I told you, I don't play nice!" Naruto shouted back and ran to Jaiden, who had to smile. It was good to see Naruto be a bit like he had been, back when Gaara first learned to know him. Playful yet serious, grinning like there was no tomorrow. Sometimes he missed that Naruto, but also knew he would never trade present Naruto for a more carefree version of him. "What's on your mind, old man?" Naruto asked. "Hey, I'm not that old," Jaiden protested. "Old man!" Enju called from the river. "Enju!" "Yeah, Enju!" Naruto shouted. "Don't take his side!" Enju got out and came up from the water, dripping wet. "Naruto! You're so going to get it!" "Yeah, try getting me!" Kakashi watched the two boys running around, seeing the blonde was taking it slow with Enju, who clearly was no shinobi nor knew any shinobis around him. His movements, while graceful for a normal boy, were so clumsy in a shinobi's eyes. It was a bit entertaining watching the two, but work was calling. Shikamaru and Naruto stopped once they knew Kakashi was gone. "Jerk!" Shikamaru muttered. "Bitch!" Naruto replied. "You too, no swearing," Gaara said. "Shut up," both said simultaneously. Naruto's eyes narrowed when he felt Gaara's presence, the younger Gaara, the bloodlust clear in the air. He had left Sakura and Sasuke. Maybe they met him instead of him and Sakura like last time. "Let him down," Sasuke's voice serious. "Not until he learns his lesson." Kankuro. Naruto had to stop and enjoy it for a moment. He had missed that voice. Remembering why he was there, Naruto shook his head and got down to business. He walked around the corner and saw Konohamaru in Kankuro's grip, Temari standing slightly behind with a hand on her hip. "You do realize that's the Hokage's grandson you're holding?" Naruto called out as he walked closer. The siblings turned to look at him, and he continued. "You're from Suna, am I right?" "Who the hell are you?" Kankuro asked. "Tell your friend to come down from the tree first, and let go of Konohamaru, of course," Naruto said with a polite smile. His chillingly cold chakra told them a different tale. Konohamaru ran back to safety of his friends, Sakura and Sasuke, once Kankuro released him and Gaara appeared next to his brother. He looked at Naruto coldly, eyes narrowing slightly when the blonde did not move an inch from the glare. Instead, he seemed faintly amused, a shadow of a smile playing at his lips. It was unnerving. "Your name?" the redhead said to him. "Naruto," the blonde replied. "And from the look of it, you're the famous Sabaku no Gaara. How do you know about me?" "Your friends don't seem to know," Gaara asked, crossing his arms, his eyes hardening and sinking deep into Naruto, yet not getting any closer. Naruto walked closer until he stood right in front of Gaara. The others stared at the two in shock. Temari and Kankuro probably shocked Gaara had not attacked Naruto yet, and his teammates, and the kids for daring walk close to a stranger. He smiled, leaned in a bit, and said quietly, "A Jinchuriki always know another one of its kind." Gaara's eyes widened the tiniest bit. "You got one-tailed, I got the nine-tailed," Naruto continued in the same hushed voice. "Meet me at midnight by the waterfall, you know where it is." He walked away. "They were fine?" "Yes, they were, Gaara," Naruto said for the 5th time. "They're kids." "You're implying my older siblings are small?" Gaara asked, hands on his hips as he tried to stare down Naruto. "Not implying, I'm stating a fact," the blonde said, not giving in. "Besides, they looked kinda cute." "Temari and Kankuro doesn't fit in with the description cute," Gaara deadpanned. "Oh, I don't know about that," the blonde said as he fixed up the scrolls. "Kankuro's hat's cute." "You're insane," the redhead informed. "Been there, done that," he said and got up. "Hey, what time is it?" 10 to midnight, Shikamaru said. "Better get going," Naruto said. "See you guys later." A salute, then he was gone. Shikamaru blinked, turned to Gaara. "Going where?" he asked. "Don't ask." Gaara turned around, sand ready when he saw the blonde. He lowered his hand. Naruto jumped down and sat on a stone a bit away from the redhead, not too far away yet not too close. "You're a Jinchuriki," Gaara said. "Yes. Nine-tail. Kyuubi. The strongest one. According to himself," Naruto said. Kyuubi screeched, but the blonde shut him up with a mental slap. "Shikaku won't let you sleep," If I sleep, he will devour my soul and sanity. That means he doesn't let you sleep. What does it matter to you? We're not friends, the redhead said. I'm no one's friend. With that lovely attitude of yours, I can understand it, the blonde said. Do you want to die? Gaara growled. Try it, Naruto said and looked at Gaara. Let's see who walks away here alive. The teen from Suna looked him over and then took a step closer. Naruto did not move. Gaara moved slow, hesitant, but soon enough he carefully got down on his knees in front of Naruto, looked up at him. The blonde looked surprised. He sure had not anticipated this course of action from the Suna shinobi. Show me your real face, Gaara said. You don't look like that. You sure you want that? I know you're older. I can feel it. Shikaku can feel it. You're older, and you're not supposed to be here. The blonde rose up and closed his eyes, releasing the hinge. He cracked his shoulders and neck as he grew back to his normal looks. He sighed softly and said, That's better. It's cramp in that small-ass body. Gaara stared at the man who had appeared in place of the skinny-looking boy. Blindingly white, he would describe this man at first sight. Then, that he knew this man. Family. He got up and suddenly Shikaku got quiet, real quiet. The redhead even got a bit nervous. He's quiet, isn't he? Gaara looked up at Naruto, who smiled a bit, and said, He feels Kyuubi, and is scared shitless, 'cause Kyuubi ain't so happy with him right now. Come here. The teen did not hesitate, stepping forward, letting the blonde place his cool hands on either side of Gaara's head, cradling his temples and letting his own forehead touch Gaara's tattooed one. There was warmth and comfort, something he thought he had lost. Gaara. Yeah? His voice sounded a bit younger. He was looking into those blue eyes, not daring to close them. Be nice to Kankuro and Temari. They love you. Don't scare them away. You know you don't want that. Be nice, and you'll see they'll be nice too. Are you going to be nice to me too? Gaara asked. I'll always be, Naruto said with a smile, feeling at ease. Tell your siblings not to listen to what Sound has to say. How did you know Dash? Don't ask me, just trust me. Sound, Orochimaru, he will use you and then throw you away. Show him you're not his toys. He's killed your Kazekage. Gaara's eyes widened a bit at that. I never knew when it was, Naruto said. And then I found out, but by then, it was already too late. We found his body not long ago. But the Kazekage is here. No, it's Orochimaru in disguise. Don't worry about him. I and my friends will stop him. You focus on protecting your siblings. Gaara found himself nodding. Good, the man said and stepped back. Oh, and one thing? Can we keep this? He pointed at himself. A secret? Yeah, the redhead said. Good. I hope you will meet my friends soon. One of them is redheaded, has a tattoo like yours, but he knows what it means to love and trust someone else than yourself. The teen looked confused for a moment, then understood and gaped. Naruto looked up at the sky and said, Time for me to go back. Try to sleep some, Gaara. Shikaku won't do anything. And if he does, contact me again and I'll make sure he never dares interrupt your sleep again. And just like that, Naruto was gone. Chunin exams? Aren't we a bit too young for that? Sakura asked anxiously. You are, Naruto thought miserably. You've shown a lot of strength so far, Kakashi said, his eye curved in his normal eye smile. This is the applications, and if you want to take the exams, just fill out the form. The exams start in 2 days, so you're free until then. And just like that, the man was gone. Naruto stared at the spot the copy Nin just had occupied, and had to remind himself this was completely normal Kakashi behavior. Why was he surprised? Maybe it was because it had been over 10 years since he had seen it. Whatever. He looked at the application, then over at Sakura and Sasuke. Are you going to fill it out, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked sweetly. We all have to fill it out, Naruto said. The whole team has to participate. What do you know about it, Naruto Baka? He resisted the urge to smack her over the head and tell her to be respectful to an elder. He was supposed to be her age. Instead, he just looked at her, muttered pinky screeching bitch under his breath and turned to walk away. Are you going to fill it out? Sasuke asked to his back, and the blonde glanced over at him. What, you too much of a chicken not to? He asked, knowing based on that comment alone Sasuke would fill it out. Even if the teen didn't want to. He made that remark with a small smile, letting the Uchiha know he was not completely serious. Seeing a flash in those black eyes, a mix of amusement and anger, Naruto chuckled and walked away. Thawing the ice prince was kinda fun. Temari and Kankuro were officially freaking out when Baki came back from meeting the Kazekage. "What's wrong?" he asked them. Temari only pointed at a door, hand trembling. Kankuro managed to get out. "Gaara!" Baki whirled around to the door, wondering what sight he will be met by. Bloodshed, sand everywhere, crazy eyes? He wrenched it open, saw it, and promptly leaned to the door to not fall flat on his ass. Gaara was curled up on the bed, sound asleep and a blanket drawn over his shoulders. His hands were tucked to his chest, and the way he had curled up on reminded Baki of a child. A comfortably sleeping child. He wondered briefly if the ending of the world was coming, then shook his head and straightened up. The gourd stood by the end of the bed. It had been a long time since he had seen it anywhere beside Gaara's back. "How long has he been sleeping?" he asked the two. "I don't know," Temari said. "But over 4 hours. He hasn't stirred once while we've been watching. And he was nice to me when I went to get some water last night. Not fake nice, real nice." Kankuro nodded jerkily, still in shock. Baki turned around and watched the youngest team member for a bit. Then he gently closed the door and said, "Let him sleep. He hasn't gone crazy on us yet, so let him sleep." Naruto was itching and speeding. He couldn't sleep. He was practically vibrating on the spot, sitting cross-legged on his bed. He had to do something. Anything. Getting up and rushing out from the apartment took him little effort, and soon Naruto was speeding over the rooftops in his real body, looking as Shiroi. He knew guards could see him but was fairly certain the normal guards had seen him before and would not raise a fuss. He came to the training grounds and stopped, breathing deeply, feeling the air clear his head and tilted his face upwards. Pulling out one of his scrolls, he opened it and looked down at the various seals and symbols, summoning one and rolling up the scroll with practiced ease. He put it away and held the katana in one hand, checking the edge. Razor sharp, just like the last time he had checked it. He spent the following hour practicing, slashing the katana through the air and sometimes clones, whirling around in a graceful dance he had mastered years ago, never missing a beat of the rhythm. What Naruto did not notice was that Kakashi was watching. The man had noticed the blonde man jumping on the roofs, following after to try understanding the mysterious man he had seen only twice. He wondered how many knew about him and the other two, that Akai and Kurwa. But for now, he watched Shiroi engage in a dance with blades, the strikes fast and deadly, and the Kopinin had never seen anyone fight like that. Naruto fell to one knee after 1 hour of no stopping, panting hard. He stood kneeling for a minute or two, head bowed low with the end of the katana stuck in the ground. Then he pulled himself up along with the sword and breathed deeply, sweat trickling down his face. He looked up at the star-filled sky and felt calm. He would sleep well if he went to Gaara and Shikamaru. He was not going to that ass-cramped apartment if he could help it. He muttered a few words and with a poof of smoke the katana returned to its rightful place. Naruto began walking, noticed Kakashi and tensed up. The man could not follow him to the house. Kakashi would set 2 and 2 together and figure them out. "Stargazing, Kakashi-san?" he called out. The Kopinin froze in place, then laughed sheepishly as he jumped down. "Couldn't help but watch, Shiroi-san," he said, still a bit unfamiliar with the title. "But if it ease your mind, I was stargazing originally until you showed up. I apologize for interrupting," the man said and looked over at Kakashi. The Kopinin was lying but Naruto let it slide. "Sleep evaded my mind. You too, huh?" Shiroi looked over at him and could not help a small smile. "How did you know about Zabuza?" Kakashi asked. "I have my ways," he replied. "No one knew here in Konoha. A bird whispered in my ear," Shiroi said with a shrug. Kakashi stared at him, and he smiled as he continued. "Secrets are meant to be kept secret, Kakashi-san. I came, I helped, that should satisfy you. Are you working for the Hokage?" The blonde looked at him. "Who else would I work for?" he asked. "There are a lot of people in this village wanting to take over. But all of them too weak," Shiroi said. "Arrogant, yes, greedy, yes, but powerful? No. You say you are?" the Kopinin said as they began to walk. "It doesn't matter if, or what I am," Shiroi said. "Humor me." Naruto looked over at Kakashi, saw him look upwards and decided to indulge the man a little bit. "Kurwa and Akai don't understand why I bow to a weakling, saying I can snap the Hokage's neck with a clenching of my fist. I beg to differ, but of course, I don't know my own limit. Why are you bowing then? Naruto stopped a bit ahead of Kakashi, thinking. I made a promise. To protect. Besides, Sarutobi-sama is not so bad. But Akai and Kurwa still call you Sama? Aren't you supposed to be equal? Have you even tried to make the wind stop howling? Or the sky to stop being blue? Stubborn as mules, 10 times over those two, Shiroi muttered. When he turned around, Kakashi was watching him, debating what to ask next. But it was enough chatting. He wanted sleep and Kakashi could not know all yet. I bid you farewell, and a calm night, Naruto said. A storm is rising, and if we cannot stop it soon, the tide will ride too high for us to be stopped. What do you mean? Kakashi asked wide. But the blonde was already gone. Team 7 met each outside the building some time before the exam would begin. The three looked at each other, Sakura looking a bit nervous while Naruto looked between them both. Sasuke just jerked his head to the door, and they went inside. Naruto barely remembered what happened last time. 20 years had passed and he had suppressed most of it, but it was rather straightforward, a simple gin just to hiding the real place for the exam and the meeting with Lee's team. He gazed at the three fondly even as Lee began fawning after Sakura and Neji glaring at Sasuke, Sasuke glaring right back at him. Tenten sighed in misery and caught his eyes. He mirrored her movement, and she smiled a bit at him. Chuckling, he took the necks of his teammates, Sakura shouting at Lee and Sasuke glaring, and hauled them off to find the real exam room. As they came into the room, everyone turned to look at them. Naruto could see clear in their eyes they pretended to be bigger and meaner than them. He was so not impressed and pushed the two to the rest of the rookie 9. They all began to chatter but he took no part of it. Seeing Gaara, he waited until the redhead saw him, and then the whole team seemed to lighten up a bit. He weaved his way over to Naruto, Temari and Kankuro trailing after. Naruto looked behind himself and saw Kabuto. Pressing down the urge to kill the man right there and then, he steeled himself and moved over to Gaara. He would have his chance later. Naruto, the redhead said, even smiling a bit. It was weird to see young Gaara smile a normal smile, but the blonde could get used to it. Gaara, he said with a grin. This your team? My siblings, Temari and Kankuro. The two looked at him in awe, and something told him that Gaara had changed after meeting him. Good. Gaara deserved it. Where's your team? Naruto waved a hand vaguely at the direction of the chatter, and cringed as he heard Ino and Sakura break out in a fight. They're kinda loud, Temari said with a wrinkle of her nose. They're just kids, Naruto said, as if he was defended an armful of 5-year-olds. You're a kid too, she said. Am I? He asked with a smile, and somehow she saw age in those blue eyes, belonging to a man not a child. Before she could say anything, Ibiki walked into the room. Naruto closed his eyes as the test begun, tapping the pen against the desk gently as if he was just thinking while he was running through mental commands to release a technique, hearing faint whispers from Shikamaru and Gaara the older ones when they were doing the same. Connection and suddenly Shikamaru's voice. First question, Blondie, don't call me that, Naruto protested in his mind before he opened his eyes, scanning the questions. He spoke the first one and waited. Easy, Gaara said and said the answer. Shouldn't you know it? You know I suck at this stuff, Naruto replied. Plus you hate thinking when you got us to do all your job. Shikamaru whined. You got me there. I hate you so much, second spill it. Naruto sighed in relief as Anko appeared, glad to see Sakura hadn't really put up her hand this time in favor for him. It was not like he needed to take the exams but Orochimaru would appear and he could as well be in the forest when the snake did. Plus Sasuke and Sakura earned a chance. Well, maybe not Sakura. Not yet. She had to grow up a bit more before that, otherwise she would die young and stupid. Moving to follow Anko, they all came to the fences that separated them from the forest of death. Naruto looked beyond the fence, not feeling the same nervousness as before. He knew there was nothing in that forest that was dangerous to him. He barely managed to catch that they were gathering here tomorrow to start the second exam, and then everyone began to scatter. His eyes slid over the faces, and then narrowed as he saw Orochimaru in his disguise. Noticing his hands were twitching, he clenched them. The rookie 9 were suddenly gathered around him and chatting, or in Ino's and Sakura's case, arguing. Naruto rolled his eyes at them, and wanted out. But it seemed like the others were determined to have him stay, most of all to ask him if he understood the questions and blah, blah, blah. He couldn't bother with listening, and was saved from it. They all grew quiet and stared at someone behind Naruto. He turned and came face to face with younger Gaara. The Suna shinobi tilted his head and then said, "Temari wanted to know if you wanted to have dinner with us." "Sure," the blonde said with a grin. "Lead the way." The redhead smiled timidly and Naruto mentally patted himself on the back for a job well done. He wasn't really surprised at seeing Baki there with the two older Sabakus, and the way his eyes narrowed when seeing Naruto. "I had to tell him about the Kazekage," Gaara said. "I'm sorry if that." "No, it's okay. I expected it, it's okay," Naruto said. He walked up to them with Gaara at his side plopped down and smiled at the three of them. "Yo!" He saluted with his hand. At the same time, a cloud of smoke surrounded him, as he knew it was safe to show his real self. Once the smoke cleared away, the three reared back a bit while Gaara smiled at him. "I like you more that way," he said. "You're saying I looked horrible as a brat?" Naruto asked. "You really looked like that when you were young?" the redhead said, blinking. "Not really. I looked a lot more stupid," the man admitted. Kyubi agreed, and that earned him a kick in the head. Growling, the demon rubbed his sore head and stuck out his tongue at Naruto. He was kindly ignored as Naruto turned back to the real world. "Che, you're so boring, brat. Warning you, Q-chan." "Q-chan?" "Yep." Kyubi screamed in outrage, but Naruto ignored him. "Who are you?" Baki asked as he had recovered from his shock. Naruto's eyes moved over to him. "An ally," he replied. "That's all." Chapter 8. Gaara looked up at the house and then at Naruto. Deep inside his green eyes shone. The blonde was dressed in those blindingly white clothes again, shining like an angel Gaara didn't believe in and now did. A bloodied angel perhaps and without wings, but his angel nonetheless. "Ready to meet them?" Naruto asked, blue eyes gazing into his. "Family." They were family. For the blonde man, Gaara would do anything. "Yeah," he answered and smiled. It was a bit weird being checked over by an older version of himself, but Gaara was not about to start complaining, just staring at the older red-headed man and his tattoo as he stared right back. "Alright, this is one of the freakiest things I've seen lately," Shikamaru commented from his spot, and Naruto promptly smacked him over the head. "What?" "It is." The blonde only shook his head before taking a sip of his tea, Kyubi's chakra rumbling inside of him, slightly vibrating through the three people in the house. They felt no hatred or fear but only warmth from the chakra, and looked over at Naruto. The man sat with his eyes closed, the cup of tea against his temple and Kyubi relaxing his tense muscles with whispers alone. Red and hot chakra pulsed just underneath his skin, and Shikamaru sat down next to him. "Don't worry," he reassured the younger Gaara. "This happens from time to time. It won't get out of the house and alert anyone," the older Gaara said. "But in our time, man, it freaks some people out. And best part is, he here didn't care," Shikamaru said and poked at Naruto. "Why should I?" Naruto asked, opening one eye to look at the brunette. "They didn't give me a reason to do it." "True," Shikamaru said and nodded. "So what's your big plan for tomorrow?" "Keep Orochimaru away from Sasuke. We can kill him, you know. Not in the forest with all those kids in it." "Gotta wait. Since when did you care about kids?" the older Gaara asked, sitting down and patting the spot next to him so his younger version could sit down as well. "It would be annoying," Naruto said even as the younger Gaara sat down next to them. "Having to apologize for killing everyone's genins." The two remaining from the future considered this and then agreed. "So when are we killing him?" "For killing him we will," Shikamaru said. "Third exams because I doubt he's gonna stay if we stop him in the second exam," Naruto said. "Before he can kill Sandaime." Gaara looked at the three time travelers' plan, hearing them go through techniques that made even him gape, and he wondered just how strong they were. New day dawned bright and early, and Naruto was waiting for his teammates to arrive. Once again in his younger form, he had squatted down and was now drawing circles in the sand with his finger. It was boring to wait and not have anything to do. Kyubi rumbled in him, and he quieted the demon down. It would do no good if any of the Jounins would hear or feel Kyubi. That would just spell lots of trouble to him, trouble he had no interest in dealing with. "Naruto." He looked up as the shadow came over him, and looked into Sasuke's black eyes. "Morning," he replied. "Yeah," Sasuke replied and sat down next to him. Naruto raised an eyebrow, unusual behavior for the Ice Prince. "How was it with Gaara yesterday?" It was good, Naruto said. He's not as bad as you'd think. Sasuke only nodded and let the blonde continue drawing circles. Naruto wondered when Sakura would stop talking. They had begun the second exam and she wouldn't shut up. Just grabbed Sasuke's arm, and talked, and fucking talked. He had the urge to turn around, walk up her, smack her over the head and tell her to act her age, but refrained. He knew what she was. Nervous. And when Sakura was nervous, she started talking, listing things she had read, as if thinking that would help her. Well, guess what? It wouldn't. Russell. Quiet, Naruto hissed, and to his surprise the girl shut up. Sasuke shook her arm off and they walked up to the blonde. Where? Sasuke said, looking around. I heard it too but couldn't pinpoint it. Left, Naruto said. Let's get up in the trees. Yeah. Sakura followed willingly, now not so brave she had been during the first exam. That had been her element. This, not so much. Not yet. Naruto landed on a branch and listened. Whoever had caught Sakura's voice had not followed them. It could have been Orochimaru. No, as much as Naruto hated the man, he had to admit the guy was powerful in his own right. He would not allow any genins to hear him. Whoever this was, it was another team, or a scout to another team. Sasuke and Sakura landed on the branch next to him. They had gotten away from whoever it had been. Good. All they had to do now was to get a scroll opposite of there. They had gotten an Earth scroll, which meant they had to get a Heaven scroll to pass. What should we start with? Sakura asked, fidgeting. Get a bit further in, I guess, and then set up camp. Naruto replied. We're going to be here for 5 days, so we don't have to do it in a rush. What? You even listened to the instructions? Sakura said. The blonde felt his eyebrow twitch but replied through clenched teeth. Yeah, I actually did. What, you surprised I actually got a brain? Let's get moving. The first night Naruto stayed up, looking over the forest and stretching out his chakra. He felt groups near there, albeit faintly, and wondered if he would go and accidentally get a Heaven scroll. No, his 2 team members had to work a bit for it. He had done this all already and knew he could get it. Sasuke and Sakura needed to train a lot more than him. Yo! He looked up and Shikamaru grinned at him. Naruto was seated in a tree, and by the roots of it Sasuke and Sakura rested. Yo! He replied, and the man jumped down on the branch, dressed in complete black. He sat down more comfortably and Naruto continued. Gaara? Watching the kids? Shikamaru and pointed down. Good. We found Orochimaru. He's not far from here. I know, that's why I set up a barrier. Good call. We're gonna track him, make sure he stays away from you guys. That's great, Naruto said. If he really gives a lot of trouble, capture him and take him away. Roger that, Shikamaru said and grinned again. You watch over them? Someone has to do it, Naruto said. They'll be fine, you and Gaara better get going. All right, Shikamaru said and jumped down from the tree. Naruto saw Gaara follow him as they left, and he also jumped down to have a better look where the 2 were. If anyone approached them, he would know. When Sasuke and Sakura woke up in the morning, the first thing they saw was Naruto sitting on a log eating something. What's that? Sasuke asked as he sat up. Ration bars, Naruto said and took another bite. Doesn't taste much, but it keeps you satisfied. You guys want one? Sure, Sasuke said, not feeling to run around and get breakfast consisting of some berries or whatever. Sakura nodded as she got up. Naruto fished up 2 from his pack and threw them to his team, then went back to his own. They glanced at him one more time, and he knew they had not expected him to bring any with him. Having lived on them for years during missions, he knew better than to forget them. He swallowed the last piece along with some water and then rose up. There should be other teams nearby, he said to the 2 of them. We're going to run into a team who had the scroll we need eventually. Yeah, Sasuke said. Who's going to be in charge of ours? I can, Naruto said. The 2 looked at him. I'm not going to drop it, I swear. Who did they take him for, an idiot? Well, a few months ago he had been an idiot. Shaking it off mentally, he stared back at the 2. Sasuke unpacked the Earth scroll and threw it over to Naruto. He pretended to pack it into his backpack while in reality he sealed it within a scroll that went into his pouch on the back of his hip. Rising up again and pulling the backpack on, he saw the 2 were getting ready. All right, Sasuke said. Let's go and get ourselves a scroll then. The teams had managed disguising themselves rather well, and their second day in the forest soon came to an end with the darkness, and no scroll. During the night when Naruto had kept watch, the team's signals had disappeared one after another, so they probably used something to hide themselves. Nonetheless, he knew the next day they would find a team, if he so had to chase down said team himself. He took charge of watching that night too, despite Sakura's and Sasuke's protests. He promised them he would not fall asleep. He was too wired up to sleep anyway. The moment they fell asleep, he placed a barrier around them, keeping them safe and trusting Gaara and Shikamaru to look over them. Naruto himself? He had a few barriers to knock down. What training would Sakura and Sasuke get if they had no way of sensing the teams? The two rose up early and once more saw Naruto sitting and eating one of those ration bars. He did not look tired at all. "You are weird," Sasuke concluded as he got up from the ground. "Why's that?" Naruto asked. "You aren't any tired at all?" "Not really? Should I be?" Sasuke looked at him a little longer, then shook his head and got his backpack on. Naruto grinned a bit and rose up as well. "So, shall we go find ourselves a team to knock out?" Defeating a team from grass had been surprisingly easy, and Naruto had not even needed to help except for knocking one of the guys out who were giving Sakura a hard time. And really, he had just dropped down from a branch he was sitting on, landing with his feet on the man's head. Not his fault if the man couldn't handle it. And no, there was no reason to bring up the fact he had made his feet feel like a piece of concrete. Sasuke rooted through the other team's bags and finally produced a scroll. He held it up for them to see. Heaven. Naruto could not believe their luck, but for safety he said, "Could it be a genjutsu on it?" "Maybe," the Ice Prince said. "I can check," Sakura said, and the two gave in, knowing she was a bit better in genjutsu than them. Naruto had been taught by Kurenai, but it was more about battle genjutsus, not this kind. Plus, he would probably make the scroll explode even with his good chakra control. He did not have the patience for this kind of stuff. Sakura could confirm it was real and it was given to Naruto so he would guard both. "So now all we have to do is protect the scrolls and make it to the tower," Sasuke said. "Yeah," Naruto said. "We should camp near the tower." "Why not go there directly?" Sakura asked. "We have to be outdoors at least 2 or 3 days. We've been here for 2 and it's kinda looking suspicious if we come way too early, so we camp out one more night and then I guess we'll go to the tower," Naruto said. "Come on, place is gonna be crawling with other teams soon. The tower is north, so let's head that way," Sasuke said. "Take the lead," the blonde said, and that was what the Uchiha did. When Naruto knew they were not looking, he made 10 clones that would circulate them along the road and alert of danger before following the two. Naruto was surprised how long Orochimaru had waited until approaching them. They were having a small break around lunchtime when he felt the man's chakra. Looking up, he stretched out his own and connected with Gaara and Shikamaru. They were watching every breath the snake took. Good. He glanced back at Sakura and Sasuke. They needed to be safe somewhere. He had to change into Shiroi, and make it look like they were patrolling if someone saw them. He kinda regretted now they had not told Sarutobi more about what they knew, but releasing too many details would give the poor man a heart attack. He had yet to know that they were time travelers, but there were pieces in the scroll he had been given that would point to that fact. You just had to pick that up. Naruto hoped by the time they met again Sarutobi had figured it out. He wanted the man to figure out so they could speak more freely. Plus he could reveal what had happened to the child Naruto. Although he was not really sure of the details himself. Damn Kyuubi. I heard that. Duh, that was kinda the point. I think I'm offended. Well then, I guess you are. Looking at the two teens again, Naruto stood up and began walking away. Where are you going? Sasuke asked. Taking a leak, he answered. Be back in a few. Disappearing behind a few bushes, he made the copy of himself, and then shrugged away the henge from himself. Now in his normal white outfit and long hair, he disappeared from the spot, the copy already knowing what to do. He jumped down behind Shikamaru. The snake's watching them, the man said without turning around. Waiting for his chance. Well, he won't get one, Naruto said. Where's Gaara? Even closer, the black-haired man said. Probably giving him the creeps by staring right into the back of his skull. Hey, there's nothing wrong with Gaara's stare. It's hell to be under it, Shikamaru said and shuddered. Yeah, that's kinda the whole point. Should we take him out now? As in kill him? Yeah. No, you know that. If we fight him full out, it'll be a lot of damage. Later, during the third exams, or sooner if we manage. We'll restrain him for now, letting him know he can't have Sasuke. There was no way he would let Sasuke have to carry that curse eel again. The brat had already enough on his mind. Shikamaru nodded at that, and Naruto motioned with his hand to take him to Gaara. Soon the two landed behind the redhead, who did not greet them other than stretch up his hand, eyes not leaving Orochimaru. The man kept looking around and Shikamaru chuckled. He can probably feel us a bit, and wonders where the hell we are, he said. All right, Naruto said. Let's do this. Orochimaru tried to relax as he turned back his eyes to the three genins. Well, one was a clone, but he didn't know that. But it was not that easy. It felt like someone was staring at him, and it was beginning to get on his nerves. Not to mention it was a bit creepy. Wherever he turned, he discovered nothing but a faint tug at something, or someone. The moment he tried to strengthen it so he could pinpoint where the person was, it retreated just out of his reach. That was getting annoying. Hello, Snake. He whirled around and got a kick to the stomach that made his breath catch. How the hell? He recovered quickly though and looked up to see his attacker. Blackness was one good word to describe the man. The only thing that was not black was the man's skin, that was a complete contrast to his clothing and hair, nearly white. Then Orochimaru saw the shadows by his feet. They were twisting, climbing upwards on his legs and whirled around in the air in small curls. Are you a Nara? He asked as he slowly stood up. That's a good question, the man replied. Am I? He stretched out a hand and shadows flew out from him, making Orochimaru leap back to avoid it. The moment he landed, sand wrapped around his ankles tightly and he growled out. That Biju from Suna? No. A man appeared in front of him, red-headed and red-eyed, looking at him coldly as in contrast of his fierce redness. He was also dressed in red that made him stick out in the surrounding environment. That boy, the man continued, is far nicer than me. Orochimaru observed the two of them as the black-haired one stepped closer. What should we do with him, Akai? He said as he reached the redhead. Keep him in place, until the children are safe. Who are you? He hissed at them. Patrollers from Konoha? You actually stay in Konoha whilst having all this power? The power to actually pin him down with no effort. They were no mere jounins, they were something else. With your powers, you could do so much. He tried to get out from the hold, but the sand would not let go, would not let him get away. He had never heard of anyone else than Sabaku no Gaara to be able to control sand so much. We do what we want. Our reasons are our own. A third voice. A rustle behind him, and a man stepped down next to him before going over to the other two. Orochimaru could not help but stare. One in complete black, one in red, and now one in white? The white-dressed man turned around and looked at the snake-like man with ice-blue eyes, locks of blonde hair falling down his face, the rest trickling down his back. There was something about these three that Orochimaru had never seen before. You are going to get out of this forest, the white-clothed man said. Without harming anyone or anything. Without even touching anyone. What? Just like that? Orochimaru said. Of course we'll make sure of that, the blonde said, and his lips twisted into a smile. Don't think we'll let you out of our sight. We will watch every breath you take, Orochimaru, until the very last one. The man felt as if it was the sand that actually held him up at this point. The voice in combination with those chilly eyes made his legs weak from fear. Him, the great Orochimaru, was terrified of a man he did not even know the name of. Fine, he said. I'll go. Not forever though. I will have Sandaime killed, and Sasuke on my side. Who are you? I'm Akai, the redhead said. Kurwa, the black-clothed one said. Shiroi, the blonde said. We are warriors loyal to the future. Kurwa snickered at this, but Orochimaru was too busy to wishing he was getting out from the forest alive that he did not try to question why. Shiroi looked over at Akai, who released Orochimaru from the sand's clutches with a mere wave. Leave, Shiroi said to the sound leader. If you don't. At this he looked over at Kurwa, who smiled. I can kill him then? The black-dressed man said happily. Shiroi rolled his eyes. Oh, sorry, stupid question, I guess. So, Orochimaru, if you haven't done what we feel satisfying, you are to die by my hand. He looked positively giddy at the prospect, and Orochimaru was not about to indulge him. He was gone a moment later. Follow him, Naruto told Shikamaru, who only saluted and vanished as well. Gaara and Naruto looked at each other. I guess I should go back to my team. I'll stay close, Gaara said, and Naruto nodded before vanishing. Sakura and Sasuke were none the wiser about Naruto being gone, and he slid back effortlessly behind them. They did not even notice anything, and he sighed. They needed a lot more training to become skilled shinobis. But then again, he was not just a careless genin but someone who had fought for the better part of his life. Maybe he should cut them some slack. Suddenly he felt Gaara the Younger's chakra spike up and stopped abruptly. This Sakura and Sasuke noticed, and they stopped. Naruto, what's wrong? Sakura asked. Shikaku's being a pain in the ass, Kyuubi informed the man. Great. Naruto looked over at the two and said, Nothing. Just had this feeling. He looked over to the side where he saw Gaara appear for a moment. Their eyes spoke, Gaara nodded once, and then he vanished. Naruto turned back to them. Probably just chakra from someone else in the forest, he said. Shall we continue? Sasuke now felt it too but nodded. He had no interest in engage in any fights with the person who had this heavy chakra. Gaara, now in the guise as a Kai, jumped between branches, rapidly making his way over to his younger version, which apparently had let Shikaku take the leading role for a moment. Well, anything that involved killing and blood, Shikaku would be a glad volunteer on that one. At least this time Shikaku, the older Gaara's Biju, he had learned his lesson. Arriving at the scene, Akai assessed the situation. He felt teammate from Konoha, Hinata, Kiba and Shino, and then looked over at his younger self. The younger Gaara was going to kill those 3 genin from Rain unless Akai stopped him. But how? There were no rules against killing, but Akai did not want to see his younger self completely vanish like that. So he focused instead, sending out his chakra to connect with Gaara's. Through the red haze that was Shikaku came a fresh breeze, and Gaara opened his eyes wide. His older self. Without thinking, he released the man from the sand and looked around before realizing what he was doing. He was about to kill someone again. In cold blood, he closed his eyes tightly, sending a mental thanks to his other self for the wake-up call. Temari Kankuro, he said quietly. Let's go. The two relaxed at seeing it was him again, and nodded. They vanished a moment after that, and the team from Rain who just escaped death could not help but collapse on the spot, weak from feeling that killer intent. Teammate gave all a sigh of relief. Naruto was not so comfortable letting either of his teammates keeping watch the third night, but he knew Gaara was nearby and therefore let Sasuke take the watch. He lay awake for long periods of time though, watching their surroundings. Naruto. He blinked and peered over his shoulder at Sasuke. You can relax, you know, the black-haired teen said. Nothing's going to happen. I guess adrenaline's keeping me awake, Naruto said. And paranoia, he added in his head. Well, try to sleep. You haven't rested at all ever since we entered, and that was 2 days ago. That was true. Naruto shrugged and lay back down, closing his eyes and willing his body to relax along with his mind, if just for an hour or two. He was woken up by a gentle shaking of his shoulder, and opened his eyes blearily to look up at Sasuke. It was morning and the sun shone faintly through the thick roof of leaves and branches. Yo, Sasuke said with an almost smile. When I said you should try, I didn't mean that deep. Sorry, he said with a yawn and sat up. Sakura was nibbling on some berries she had found, looking around the surrounding forest. So, the tower today? Yeah, the Ice Prince said, still sitting crouched by his side. No use camping out any longer than necessary. Should we get going? Sakura asked, and Sasuke rose up even as Naruto got up as well. Best if we do, Naruto said and glanced around. Gaara was to his left, his chakra indicated he had had no rest at all. The man had to sleep some time. Shikaku and the older Gaara knew better than to start messing with Gaara's sleep. Naruto figured he would talk to the man once they arrived at the tower in the forest. Let's go. You're not going to eat? Sasuke asked. No, I'm good. He got his backpack on and looked at the two before jumping up in a tree. He felt them following and set to the direction of the tower. Well, don't you look haggard. The three startled, then whipped around. Kakashi's eye smile greeted them, as he stood a bit leaned down, hands on his knees. Irika, who had been brought to them by opening the 2 scrolls inside of the tower, shook his head at the man. There was no need to frighten his own students. Although Kakashi, compared to Irika himself, was a hell of a lot kinder when it came to scaring. Just look at yourself, Naruto said. You haven't been reading Ika Ika Paradise lately. You're trembling from the withdrawal, aren't you? Kakashi got up, but at the smug look on Naruto's face he could not help but laugh a little. You got that one, Naruto. You guys are here awfully early. We had it easy, Sasuke said with a shrug. Yeah, and we didn't run into freaking Snake Man on our way here, Naruto added. You're lucky then. You get to relax for quite a bit until the ending has come. You're the fourth team to arrive. Fourth? Sakura said, and both her teammates winced at the sound. Please, no more screeching. Then, who came here before us? Dunno the two latest, but I do know the first one. A team from Suna, Kakashi said. Sabaka no Gaara's team. Gaara? Naruto perked up at this. Do we have to stick together while waiting for the others? No, the man said. Why? Then I'll go and see how it went for them. Later. With that, he ran off at the direction where he felt the Suna siblings' chakras. As he rounded the corner, the older Gaara became visible. Naruto slowed down and waited until Gaara caught up with him. You look like shit, he commented. You should go ahead and get some sleep. Maybe, Gaara said. I won't need more than an hour. Take your time. I won't go to sleep for a while. Just use our normal way when you're coming back. I'll see if I can get in contact with Shikamaru. Gaara nodded and vanished again, and Naruto started down the hallway. They had been given a room with 3 beds to rest in until the rest of teams had arrived, and now the 3 had gathered there to just relax. Or technically 2. Naruto had other things to do. Walking down the halls as Shiroi, he was making his way to one of the meeting rooms, where Sarutobi had requested his presence along with Kurwa and Akai. He had already talked to Shikamaru and the man was leaving a shadow. Naruto never really understood what it was, but it was something good, so he never investigated further than that. A whisper of wind behind him, and Akai walked behind him. In the next moment, shadows floated up and soon Kurwa was next to them. You good to go? Shiroi asked. The black-haired man had after all been up for some time. Yep, Kurwa replied. Might need a nap a little later. I can take over watching over Orochimaru, Akai said. He's outside of Konoha now. I don't think he's coming back until later. Either way, Shiroi said. We're keeping surveillance on him. We'll divide it later. You got it, Kurwa said, and they came to the doors that would lead them into the meeting room. Shiroi knocked. Enter. The 3 entered and saw the Hokage was alone in the room. They bowed when Sarutobi turned around. Close the door, please, he said. I've read the letter again. The scroll lay open before him on the desk. And? Shiroi asked. Who are you, really? He asked as he looked at the 3 of them. This letter suggests things no one but a time traveler from the future might know. Unless you make all this up, or see into the future? 3 possibilities, 2 are wrong, Shiroi said. One is plain absurd, the other more or less impossible, the third one, unlikely to occur but not unheard of. Do you always speak so difficult? The aged man groaned as he sat down. I picked the first option. Time travelers? Yes. Now tell me your full names. Shiroi made a sign to Kurwa, who nodded and clapped his hands once. No one besides Sarutobi-sama will hear what we say now, he confirmed to the blonde. Good. Then I guess we'll reintroduce ourselves. Sarutobi looked at the 3 men, waiting. Kurwa turned to the man, bowed and said, Nara Shikamaru. Then Akai's turn. Sabaka no Gaara. Shiroi. And I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Sarutobi's jaw dropped. Whatever he had expected, this was not one of them. Chapter 9. Previously, Sarutobi looked at the 3 men, waiting. Kurwa turned to the man, bowed and said, Nara Shikamaru. Then Akai's turn. Sabaka no Gaara. Shiroi. And I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Sarutobi's jaw dropped. Whatever he had expected, this was not one of them. The man had to take a few moments to collect himself. The 3 time travelers waited patiently. Or rather, he needed more than a few moments. He sat silent for a while, easing his heart back to his normal rhythm as he watched the 3 each in turn. Now when he thought about it, they bore some resemblance to their younger selves. Finally he took a deep breath and straightened up a bit. There was no use sitting there and just taking it in. If he really wanted to melt it, he better have them talking about how it happened, why and what was going to happen next. So the Sandaime spoke. You are from the future? Yes, Shiroi replied. And your younger selves haven't been affected by this? That's well. Naruto looked at Gaara and Shikamaru, who both shrugged. he was on his own there. He sighed and turned back to Sarutobi, who was eyeing him curiously. Gaara and Shikamaru from this time are unharmed, while Naruto from this time has, I guess, more or less ceased to exist. Sarutobi stared at him. I beg your pardon? He managed at last. Kyuubi doesn't like competition, Naruto said with a shrug. So, he got rid of the other Naruto. Got rid of him? He hasn't told me what he did to that Naruto, okay? The blonde said and threw up his hands. I've been trying to ask him, but the fucking fox just won't slip the lid on this on. So I'm guessing he deleted the brat. You mean yourself? Shikamaru said. Well, I was a brat at this time, Naruto said. Kinda harsh, isn't it? Gaara said. Hey, I'm talking about myself. I'm allowed to be harsh. Sarutobi looked between the three and then hawked. They shut up. Naruto, he said, and the blonde turned to look at him. Whatever happened, happened. That's it. It'll take a little while to take it in, but let's move on for now. I'm guessing you've been impersonating your younger self? That is correct, Naruto said. Call it a selfish desire to be seen anything else but a loudmouth brat who didn't know when to shut up. Again, kinda harsh, the redhead said. Naruto calmly smacked him over the head. Ow. What the hell was that for? Sarutobi chuckled at the sight of them, which made them all three snap back to attention. Now I have that cleared up, he said, although he knew he would be thinking about it for time to come. So I guess you know about Orochimaru? Yes, they replied simultaneously. And the fact that he suddenly took off? That actually was kinda us, Naruto said. What did you do? Promised to kill him if he didn't get out, Shikamaru said. We're gonna kill him anyway, but we didn't want to do it in the forest. So it's you guys I have to thank? I nearly shut the second exams down due to him, but now I know we can keep going. His interest lies in Uchiha Sasuke, Naruto said. But he won't get the boy. Why does he want Sasuke? He wants the Sharingan, Naruto replied. He won't get close to Sasuke. He wondered if he was whining that out, like a stubborn child. He hoped not. With that look of yours, Sarutobi said. I don't doubt it one bit. Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke went to the meeting hall where the other teams had gathered. Some had arrived moments ago, while others had been able to rest for a bit. Now it was time to see what will happen after the time was up. Naruto already knew, but he could see the others did not. He looked over at Kabuto and felt another urge to walk up and kill the man, yet again holding it down and forcing a heavy lid on it. Nope, not going to do it. Not yet anyway. The information was pretty much the same as always, although Naruto noted Sarutobi looked over at him once, probably to check his disguise. Sorry, old man, he looks to be every bit of a scrawny 12-year-old. Leaving over to Gekko Hate, the Hokage climbed the stairs up the second level along with the Jounins, and now they were informed about the preliminary matches. Naruto looked around, and as before, Kabuto gave up. However, this time he was not saying anything against it. The man could go to a rock, crawl underneath it, and die for all he cared. Naruto looked up at the screen that began to list through their names, coming up with a random mix, and it stopped with Sasuke and Akado Yoroi. The blonde looked at the Uchiha, got the look returned, and then moved up to the second level with everyone else, leaving the two and Hate alone on the first level. Now when Sasuke did not have a curse seal to worry about, there was nothing really Yoroi could do. The Uchiha was too fast for him and caught up with his abilities within a few attacks. The blonde looked on as Sasuke made the same move as the last time, only this time without holding back. He was pretty sure he was grinning as he saw Yoroi smash into the ground, and Sasuke declared the winner. Of course, hearing Ino and Sakura shout about it made Naruto wince, and Kyuubi moaned about his poor ears. Shaking that off, he saw Sasuke had moved up to the second level and Shino moving down along with a sound guy. The guy they had not met up with in the forest like last time. Now, with his arms perfectly fine, Naruto wondered if it really would make any difference. Looking down at the ever-stoic Shino, he was pretty sure it would not. Not even 5 minutes later, Naruto was proved right and Zaku was shipped off to be treated for his injuries. Suddenly, a shadow moved near Naruto's feet. Shikamaru's voice drifted through his mind. Come here for a few minutes, would you? Naruto pretended to go to the bathroom, making a copy of himself that he sent back and who would alert him if his name showed up before he was back. With that done, he morphed back to his usual self and followed Shikamaru's trail until he met up with them both. Both had donned their Akai and Kurwa looks, which was rather good because without them Gaara would be seen as an older Gaara and Shikamaru looked rather alike his young self, and if not that, he would be connected to Shikaku. "What is it?" he asked. "We captured Kabuto before he could get to Orochimaru," Gaara said quietly, arms crossed. "Last time it took a lot longer for us to find him. We never really did capture him either. The bastard was dead when we found him," Shikamaru said. "We trapped him in our best seals. That should hold him until the end of the world," Naruto said with a smile. "Or at least the next 30 years, Gaara said. "What should we do with him?" "Leave him for now." "Where is it?" "In one of the hidden caves we found by the faces of the Hokages. Gaara sealed it shut so only we can come in." Naruto looked over at the redhead. "I made it the usual way," Gaara said, and he nodded. "For how long are we going to leave him?" "As long as we can," the blonde said. "I don't feel a particular need to see that face of his for a while." "Maybe he'll die," Shikamaru said thoughtfully. "I mean, he starves to death." "You can only hope," Naruto said and shrugged. "Anything else?" "I got Kage Bunshin scouting," Shikamaru said. "If Orochimaru or one of his little friends comes closer, I'll know it." "And Suna?" Gaara asked Naruto. "They're not in on it," Naruto said. "Baki has informed everyone what has happened, but also ordered for them to pretend. If Orochimaru does get in here, he'll be in for a surprise when Suna turns on him and sound when they need their help. So Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro don't have to fight. Except for in the finals," Naruto said. "That's good. I mean, they shouldn't be fighting the way we were forced last time," the redhead said. "Shouldn't you be going back?" "Yeah," Naruto said. "My name hasn't been called yet, but I don't really know who's fighting. I've kinda forgot the order." "Well, it was a while ago, and you are a lot older," Shikamaru said. "I sense a hint of sarcasm there, so I advise you, shut up." When he had returned and dismissed his copy, Temari and Tenten's fight was just finishing up with Temari being the winner. At least this time she did not have kill Tenten, and the weapon mistress could actually walk away from the scene, back up to her team. Once it was time for Shikamaru, Naruto smiled a bit. A shadow had formed around his feet, larger and darker than usual, and he knew his time Shikamaru was watching to see how the younger one fared against Kin, the sound girl. The shadow climbed up a bit on his feet, which was okay since he already had black sandals on him. He leaned onto the rail and stood to watch the fight. As expected, it happened the way Naruto remembered it, but this time he could appreciate the plan. Last time he had thought Shikamaru was just strange. Having a high IQ though, and Shikamaru was only expected to do that good. The shadows detangled from him and vanished, the blonde knowing Shikamaru was probably off to Gaara or something. In that moment the name stopped, and he saw he was up against Kiba. He glanced to the side and saw the boy grin, probably thought it would be a piece of cake. He had not seen much of Naruto since they finished at the academy. "Your turn, Naruto," Kakashi said, and he nearly rolled his eyes. Instead he just nodded and moved towards the stairs. To his surprise, Sakura did not say anything degrading to him. Just called out a small good luck. Sasuke nodded once he looked back, and then he was down on the first level. "This is going to be easy," Kiba said, and Akamaru barked. Naruto sighed and moved towards the boy before saying, "Maybe not." Hate looked at the two of them and then called out, "Begin." Kiba immediately charged, but Naruto was faster, jumping up in the air above him and flipping down on the floor again just as Kiba twisted around. Naruto took out one of his scrolls marked weapons and opened it behind his back, knowing where everything was and therefore did not hesitate touching one symbol. He removed a kunai with a string attached, and on the string were explosive notes. One of his tricks that was rather useful. As Kiba came towards him again, Naruto moved his other hand and threw a smoke bomb onto the floor. Immediately a black thickness welled out, and Kiba stopped as the others wondered what the blonde was planning. Sarutobi, knowing who it was a bit excited to see what the older Naruto could do, and if he was cold enough to willingly hurt a younger shinobi. Naruto himself were busy throwing the kunais around, moving with his eyes closed, already taken notes of his surroundings like Shikamaru had done, and now made full use of it. Finally he jumped backwards, the scrolls safely rolled up now and in his hand as he came whirling out of the smoke. He landed smoothly a bit away and dragged up a last kunai with an explosive note attached to the end of it. The smoke cleared and they all stared. Kiba stood in the middle of a net. A net made of strings and filled with explosive notes. He stared at Naruto, who stood rigid a bit away, the kunai ready to be thrown. Kiba wondered what would happen if they all activated. He called on Akamaru that had escaped the net, and the dog jumped towards Naruto. The blonde had already seen this. He twisted around, caught the dog by its neck and added a gentle pressure, ensuring it would black out. Akamaru flopped limply in his grasp. Akamaru! Kiba shouted as Naruto gently laid the dog down. What did you do to him? Will you forfeit? Naruto asked, lifted the kunai again. If you don't, I won't regret throwing this at you. Kiba hesitated this time, glancing around him. He was not sure if they were real or fake. He wanted to believe they were fake. He really wanted that. But there was no way of being sure. And the blonde looked way too serious now, more serious than the older shinobis even. I don't believe you! He finally shouted, because there was no way in hell he would be intimidated by the dead last. All right, Naruto said. Your loss. And so he threw it. The area around Kiba exploded, and Kurenai shouted, perhaps a moment too late, or so she thought. The others were shocked. They had not expected him to actually do that. The blonde turned around and began walking towards the stairs again. Hate moved forward, waved his way through the smoke and then said, Winner, Uzumaki Naruto! As medics came to take Kiba and Akamaru away, Kurenai rushed down to see how her student was. Shino and Hinata followed, as Hate continued removing the thick smoke. How is he? The woman asked even as she sent a half-glare at Naruto. He was way too dangerous. Just unconscious, the medic replied her. But that blonde boy sure is skilled. What do you mean? She asked, confused. That trap wasn't meant to hurt anyone, the other medic said, and smiled a bit as her eyes grew wider. It was just meant to knock someone out. To place those kunais and strings in the exact position, that's pretty tricky, and he did it like it was nothing. What about Akamaru? Hinata asked. Just fine. Should wake up in the next few minutes. Hinata, Shino said quietly, and the girl turned to him. The screen. She looked over there, and her eyes widened. Naruto watched the two names, and wondered why some things had to stay the same. Hyuga Hinata versus Hyuga Niji. That boy seriously needed to be brought down a few notches, and there was no way Naruto would let Hinata get that hurt again. If he so had to attach himself to her mind and knock her out, he would do it. Hopefully she would listen to him, and he also subtly moved his mind out, trying to connect with hers without her responding like Shikamaru and Gaara did. Watching the two making their way towards Hate, Naruto closed his eyes and sought Hinata's mind. The girl was different from what he could remember, but she was not stronger than Niji. He ignored that they began to fight, just sitting with his forehead leaned against the rail that prevented him falling down, eyes still closed and slowly, subtly, latching onto Hinata bit by bit so she would not be overwhelmed. A sharp pain made his eyes open, and he realized he felt her pain. The pain came with every gasping breath, and he saw blood drip down her lips. He made a sign and spoke in his mind, Hinata-san. Hinata stopped for a moment, Niji not moving either, but her eyes were wide as she stared down at her own feet. Hearing a man's voice in her head was not something she had ever felt before. Who are you? A friend. Your lungs are damaged. How did he know? She gasped again, replied. So? I can't just give up. That's the true spirit, Hinata-san, but I have no wish to see you die, and you will if you continue. Niji will kill you, and that will surely sign his own death. Fall back for now. For now? You are strong, Hinata-san, you are powerful. Just not this day. Hinata looked at her cousin and realized the man was right. There was no way she could defeat Niji now. He had trained himself hard to become more powerful, and at the moment he was superior to her. The girl managed to straighten her back, but she felt her limbs were shaking horrible. Aren't you coming? Niji mocked. Then I will come to you. He readied himself. Hinata-san, she caught Niji's eyes and let her Byakugan fade away. He stopped, eyes narrowing. Blood dripped from her lips, but she still bowed to him. Niji-san, she spoke, a waver in her voice. Her world was fading into blackness. She was not going to hold much longer. She looked up at him. You're much stronger than me today. I can't defeat you. So I forfeit. I give you the victory this time, but not the next one. She fell unconscious, a slight smile on her lips. Niji stood frozen on the spot, eyes wide. Winner, Hyuga Niji! Naruto watched as the medics took Hinata away, clenching his jaws. She was not as injured as last time, but it had been near. She had continued. He gripped the cold steel bars until his knuckles were white. Naruto? He looked up to see Kakashi stand near where he was sitting. The man squatted down and gently unbent his hands. You were worried about Hinata, weren't you? He said. She would have died had she continued, Naruto said and turned his eyes away. How do you know that? Kakashi asked. I could sense it, the blonde said. Then quieter. Kyuubi could sense it. Her body would not make it. Her heart would have given up. I'm glad she stopped. Kakashi looked at him and felt a frown on his face. There was something he was missing here. Next match was between Lee and Gaara. Naruto could not help the slight smile as Lee jumped in excitement over it. He looked over to see Gaara take a deep breath, vanishing in sand and reappearing on the first level. Naruto called on his times Gaara in case the younger one would lose control. It would be more comforting for that Gaara to be confronted by the older one. And if not that worked, then Kyuubi would step in. He felt the man's chakra swirl, respond in affirmative, and then moving towards the hall. The blonde glanced around but saw the others were too busy watching the two genins. He turned his eyes there as well. Hate looked between them, then shouted out. Begin! Lee blurred out of sight and reappeared in the perfect position to land a hard kick on the other teen's shoulder. Or rather, in the perfect position for everyone besides Sabaka no Gaara. The sand moved, blocked and threw the other away from Gaara, without the younger battling an eyelid. Lee landed and speeded off the moment after that, Naruto barely being able to keep up with the speed. The match seemed endless. Lee came, tried to hit, Gaara blocked, and finally Lee let the weights go. Naruto felt the older redhead move into the hall, looked over and saw him coming up the stairs. Some of the shinobis knew about him, and would not question his presence, and the others would be wise enough to shut up about it until the right time. Kakashi glanced over and tensed a little as he saw Kai come walking while watching the two fighting on the first level. The man's walk was calm enough, his arms loosely crossed, eyes focused on the pair and a bit narrowed, but the copy nin could not help but tense a bit more as the man came to a stop near Naruto. He was not sure whether he could trust those three mysterious shinobis or not, and therefore did not want any of them near one in his team until he knew for certain. Naruto himself only glanced up and allowed a small smile slip out, in an angle where no one but Gaara could see him, and the redhead ever so subtly nudged his leg with sand before it retreated. They settled down to watch the match. Kakashi was not comfortable at all with Akai sitting down to a crouch next to Naruto, but he kept his stoic mask in place, his body still with one eye directed towards them, while the Sharingan tried to keep up with Lee's movements. We should not let Lee open any of the gates, Gaara murmured, too quietly for anyone else but the blonde to hear. Naruto knew even if Lee escaped the broken bones and other injuries Gaara had caused last time, the opening of the gates would be bad enough. He nodded lightly and the redhead rose up again, walking a bit away from Naruto, focusing on the younger redhead this time. He willed Gaara to look up at him, pushing out his chakra ever so slightly, just enough with one look. Gaara felt the push and looked around, saw his older self who glanced over at Lee and then back. The teen understood. He did not feel like hurting Lee too badly either, but the Konoha genin refused to give in. Fine. He would knock the boy unconscious. A concussion was not that bad, something that Lee could recover from. Breaking a leg would not stop this one, Gaara knew that. Lee stopped for a bit when he saw Gaara stood in an unfamiliar position, slightly crouched, right hand in front of him, fingers looking like claws while the other was nearby his left hip, the fingers also looking like claws. He had been shown a technique by the older Gaara that would allow him to make the finishing move. Lee saw the teen was intending to finish the fight, and prepared to open the gates. There was no way he was going to lose. Gaara closed his eyes, and the two time travelers waited. The sand moved out from Gaara in a ring, constant movements, and Lee had to throw up his arms to protect his face from the whipping wind. Gaara tilted his head up, the short red hair ruffling up, and his eyes opened. He moved the hands. Guy screamed his student's name as Lee was caught up in something, hauled upwards before hitting one of the walls hard. Gaara let the sand catch the now unconscious teen before he could hit the floor and hurt himself more. Hate crouched down by Lee, then looked up and said, "Winner, Sabaka no Gaara!" The teen was already back at his siblings and the sand slowly trickled back to his gourd. The two looked at him with slight smiles. He had not tried to kill Lee. That was a good sign of him really changing. Kakashi finally looked away from the sight, turned his head to focus on Akai, but the man was already gone. The preliminary matches ended with Dosa as a last winner, winning against Chuji, and then they were presented with the third exam fights. Naruto was with Niji, like last time. It all looked the same, the blonde noted, and was a bit surprised how quickly they were dismissed after getting the information when it was time for the exam, and what they should do in the meantime. He met Sarutobi's eyes and the man nodded slightly. He had a job for them. Exiting with the rest of the people, he claimed a toilet break and vanished down a hall. Not even a minute later he was making his way to the room as Shiroi. Kurwa and Akai joined him shortly after that. He could hear voices drifting out from the room, Enko being the loudest. "He is here, and you know it, Hokage-sama. We can't have the third exams now. It's all under control," Sarutobi said and looked at her. "Trust me, it is." "All under control?" Ibiki asked. "With all due respect, just because Orochimaru is not nearby does not mean he's going to lie docile. As I stated, it's all under control," the old man said. "I have my private shinobis watching his moves." "Private shinobis?" Guy said slowly. "They're not of any rank in this village, nor are they known to many people," Sarutobi said. "And there they are. Come in, Shiroi, Kurwa, Akai." The shinobis in the room all whipped around as the three stepped in. Doing the customary bow, the three then began to walk towards the group. "How is the watch on Orochimaru going?" the Hokage asked. "I watch his every breath," Kurwa said with a smile. "You're not watching it now," Enko countered with. "All right then, my shadow is watching his every breath. One move I don't like, and I'll choke him to death." Slowly. "Sadist," Akai muttered. "Shut up." Shiroi only needed to glance back for both to shut up. Kakashi stared at them. So they were on Konoha's side. "They should have been introduced to us when they first arrived," Ibiki said. "That's normal." "Well, this isn't a normal situation. They don't serve Konoha, they serve me." The Hokage waved Shiroi towards him, and the blonde began to walk. Kurwa and Akai stayed behind. "I want to have this mission done." He gave Shiroi a scroll, and then looked him over. "Kakashi," he then said. "Yes?" the copy-nin said. "You are intending to train Sasuke, aren't you?" Sarutobi asked. "I will try dividing my time equally between him and Naruto," Kakashi said. "I'm sensei to both, not one of them. Sasuke will need a lot of help with that Sharingan of his," the old man said. "Shiroi, you're used to abnormal amounts of chakra, and can defeat it." "Yes." "You know of Konoha's Jinchuriki?" "Uzumaki Naruto, yes," Shiroi replied. "What about him?" Sarutobi thought for a bit, or at least it looked that way, and then said, "Train him, Shiroi. Naruto has only seen the man once. Kakashi began. "And Shiroi will be able to handle Kyuubi's chakra," Sarutobi interrupted. "Once you get back from your mission, you will train Naruto. He needs help." "Understood," Shiroi said. "I'll try to not make it uncomfortable with him." Kakashi felt uncomfortable with this already. "However," the blonde said, "as I'm off to a mission after this meeting, surely it will take a week at least. Naruto should be with his sensei." The copy-nin looked over at him in surprise, but Shiroi kept his chilling eyes at the Hokage. Sarutobi nodded and said, "That would be for the best." "Can you agree with these terms, Kakashi?" "If I can see Naruto when he's training with you, Shiroi-san," the man said. "Of course," Shiroi said and looked at Kakashi for the first time. "I will not keep him from you. I will be going then. Introduce yourself to Naruto before you leave, give him some time to digest the news," the Hokage said. "I don't want to shock him when you get back." Naruto knew this was to make it easier on the three of the time travelers, being introduced to the shinobis so they could walk around freely. The act with him training himself was also so he could have some free time while he made up training for his copy. It was rather nice of the Hokage to do this to them. "I will go and find him then," Shiroi said and bowed a bit. "Then we shall take off." "You haven't asked what kind of mission it is," Sarutobi said with a smile. "I don't question orders I've been given by a man I'm currently under in rank," Shiroi said. "Would you?" With that he turned around and walked out, Kurwa and Akai following, Kurwa having lit a cigarette while the two had been talking and now offered it for Akai to have a taste. They vanished through the doors, white, black and red. Kakashi turned back to the Hokage. "Shiroi is a good teacher," Sarutobi said to the copy-nin. "And a good student. Isn't that right, Kurenai?" They turned to look at the woman who simply nodded. "His training with Genjutsu is done?" the elderly man said as he rose up. "Yes," Kurenai said. He only needed the basis. Plus, with his strength, not many genjutsus can be kept in place if he wants to tear them apart. Tell me about it, Sarutobi muttered as he took on his Hokage hat. That man could tear me apart if he so wished. Terrible strength he has. You trust him? Ibiki said. Yes, the man said and looked at them all in turn. He's a good ally. He, Kawa, and Akai are all good men. Remember that.